The gunshot that tore through Noah Reed's side on that Tuesday afternoon wasn't meant for him. It was meant for a 6-year-old girl he'd never met. In 3 seconds, a widowed single father became a hero, a CEO's carefully controlled world shattered, and 2 broken families began their journey toward becoming whole again. This is the story of how one split-second decision in a neighborhood park changed 4 lives forever. I'm sharing this story from Denver, Colorado. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story reaches. The September sun hung low over Riverside Park, painting long shadows across the worn grass where Noah Reed sat on a weathered bench, his work boots still dusty from the construction site he'd just left. His eyes tracked his 7-year-old son Max as the boy dribbled a soccer ball between orange cones, his tongue poking out in concentration, the same expression Sarah used to make when she was focused on something important. God, Sarah. Even after 18 months, the ghost of her still caught him off guard in these quiet moments. The way Max tilted his head when he laughed, the determined set of his jaw when he missed a goal, all of it was Sarah living on in their son. Dad, watch this. Max called out, setting up for what he dramatically dubbed his super strike. Noah forced a smile, pushing down the familiar ache. Show me what you've got, buddy. The ball sailed wide, bouncing off the chain-link fence with a metallic rattle. Max's shoulders slumped for a moment before he jogged after it, already plotting his next attempt. That resilience that was all Noah. At least he'd given the kid something useful. The park was unusually quiet for a Tuesday afternoon. Most families wouldn't arrive until after 5 when the heat broke and the after-school programs let out. Noah preferred these stolen hours, just him and Max, no sympathetic looks from other parents who knew their story, no well-meaning attempts to set him up with someone's sister or cousin. Just a father and son finding their rhythm in a world that had tilted off its axis. He pulled out his phone, checking the time. 4:17. They had another 20 minutes before he needed to start dinner. Another notification from the construction company: overtime available this weekend. He'd take it, of course. He always did. The Bills didn't care that he was tired, that Max barely saw him some weeks. Single-parent mathematics were simple and cruel: time or money, never both. A flash of movement caught his eye. A little girl in a purple dress running toward the playground, her dark hair streaming behind her like a banner. She couldn't have been more than 6, maybe 7. Something about her carefree sprint made Noah's chest tighten. Sarah would have loved to see Max with a little sister, had talked about it endlessly during those last months before the cancer took her voice, then her strength, then everything else. The girl climbed the playground's rope ladder with surprising agility, her laughter carrying across the park like wind chimes. Noah noticed she was alone, unusual for a child that young. He scanned the park, looking for a parent, a nanny, anyone. There, a woman in a charcoal business suit sitting on a bench near the playground, her attention buried in her phone, fingers flying across the screen. Even from 50 yards away, Noah could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she held herself like a compressed spring. Dad, I'm thirsty. Max had materialized at his elbow, face flushed from exertion. Noah handed him the water bottle from their bag. Small sips, remember, don't want you getting a cramp. Max gulped eagerly, water dribbling down his chin. Can we stay a little longer? Please. 10 more minutes. Noah conceded, ruffling his son's sweaty hair. Then we need to... The scream that split the air wasn't a child's playful shriek. It was raw terror, primal and wrong. Noah's head snapped toward the playground. The woman in the suit had leaped to her feet, her phone tumbling forgotten to the ground. But she was 40 yards away, and the man who had emerged from behind the playground equipment was already moving toward the little girl in purple. Time dilated, each second stretching like taffy. The man wore a gray hoodie despite the heat his face obscured. His right hand emerged from his pocket, and even from this distance, Noah recognized the dull metal gleam of a handgun. The little girl stood frozen at the top of the slide, her mouth open in a silent scream. Noah didn't think. Thinking would have killed her. His body moved before his mind could catalog all the reasons this was insane. He had Max to think about. He was unarmed. He was just a construction worker, not a hero. But his legs were already pumping, covering ground with the same desperate speed he'd once used to race through hospital corridors, trying to reach Sarah's room before number focus. The distance collapsed. 30 yards, 20. The gunman was shouting something, his words lost in the roar of blood in Noah's ears. The woman in the suit was running too, but she was in heels, stumbling too far away. 10 yards. The gun swung toward the little girl. 5 yards. Noah could see the man's finger tightening on the trigger. 0. He wrapped his arms around the child, spinning his body to shield her as the world exploded in sound and pain. The bullet hit him just below his ribs on the left side, a sledgehammer blow that drove the air from his lungs. His momentum carried them both off the playground platform. He tried to control their fall, taking the impact on his back, while keeping the girl protected against his chest. They hit the wood chips hard. The pain from the gunshot wound went supernova, radiating through his entire body like liquid fire. The little girl was sobbing against his chest, her small fingers clutching his shirt. He could feel something warm and wet spreading across his side. "It's okay," he heard himself gasping. "You're okay! I've got you!" Footsteps pounded around them, running, shouting chaos. Someone was screaming for police for an ambulance. The gunman's footsteps were retreating fast, getting fainter. Noah tried to lift his head to see where Max was, but the world tilted sickeningly. "Don't leave me!" The little girl's voice was muffled against his chest. "Please don't leave me!" Small hands pressed against his face, and Noah forced his eyes to focus. The girl's face was inches from his, her dark eyes wide with terror. She couldn't have been more than 6, with delicate features and a small scar on her chin. Tears had carved clean tracks through the dirt on her cheeks. "I'm not going anywhere," Noah lied, tasting copper in his mouth. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Grace," she whispered. "My name is Grace." "That's a beautiful name." The edges of his vision were going gray. "I'm Noah. Can you do something for me, Grace?" She nodded frantically. "Can you press really hard right here?" He guided her small hands to the wound on his side, trying not to cry out at the pressure. "Like you're giving me the world's strongest hug, okay?" "Grace." The woman in the suit crashed to her knees beside them, her hands hovering uncertainly over her daughter. Up close, Noah could see she was younger than he'd first thought, maybe mid-30s with sharp cheekbones and eyes the same dark brown as Grace's. Her composure had shattered completely, replaced by raw maternal terror. "Oh God, baby, are you hurt? Are you—" "He saved me, Mama." Grace said, her hand still pressed against Noah's wound. "The bad man was going to hurt me, and he saved me." The woman's eyes locked onto Noah's, and in them he saw a complexity of emotions that defied description. Gratitude, horror, desperation, something else he couldn't name. "The ambulance is coming," she said, her voice steadier than her shaking hands. "Just hold on, please, just hold on." "My son," Noah managed. "Max, 7 years old, blue shirt. I'll find him. I'll take care of him." She was already looking around, spotting Max standing 20 feet away with a woman who had her arm around his shoulders. "The lady in the red shirt has him. He's safe." Relief flooded through Noah, followed immediately by a wave of dizziness. The gray at the edges of his vision was spreading darkness, creeping in like tide water. "Stay with me," the woman commanded, her hand covering his where it pressed against the wound. "You don't get to save my daughter and then die on us. That's not how this works." "Mama's right," Grace said solemnly, her small face fierce with determination. "You have to stay. You're my hero." Noah wanted to laugh at the absurdity of being lectured by a 6-year-old, but he couldn't seem to get enough air. Sirens were wailing somewhere close, getting louder. His vision tunneled down to Grace's face, her small hand still pressed against his side with all her might. "You're doing great, Grace," he whispered. "So brave." "Like you," she whispered back. The world fragmented into snapshots, paramedics swarming around them. Grace being pulled gently away. Her mother's voice sharp and commanding as she rattled off medical information. How did she know his blood type? Then Noah realized she was talking about Grace, checking her daughter for injuries, even as the paramedics worked on him. Someone was sliding a board under him, strapping him down. An oxygen mask covered his face. Through the crowd of medical personnel, he caught a glimpse of Max, his son's face white with terror. "Max!" He tried to call out, but the mask muffled his voice. The woman in the suit, Grace's mother, appeared in his field of vision. "I've got him. I'll bring him to the hospital. I'll take care of everything." Her hand briefly squeezed his. I promise. The ambulance doors were closing. The last thing Noah saw was Grace's face pressed against the window of her mother's car, her small hand raised in what might have been a wave or a promise. Then the darkness claimed him. Noah surfaced from unconsciousness like a deep-sea diver rising through layers of pressure. First came the pain, a dull, insistent throb in his left side that pulsed with his heartbeat. Then the sounds, the steady beep of monitors, the distant murmur of voices, the whisper of ventilation systems. Finally, the antiseptic smell that could only mean one thing: hospital. He'd spent enough time in hospitals with Sarah to recognize the particular quality of light that filtered through industrial blinds the way it painted everything in shades of beige and gray. But this was different. He was the patient now, not the helpless observer. His throat felt like sandpaper. When he tried to speak, only a croak emerged. Easy. A nurse appeared in his peripheral vision, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and competent hands. "You're at Denver Medical. You've been out for about 6 hours. The surgery went well." Surgery. Right. He'd been shot. The memories rushed back the park, the gunman, Grace's terrified face. "The girl," he managed. She's perfectly fine, thanks to you." The nurse adjusted his IV with practiced efficiency. "Been asking about you every 10 minutes, according to her mother. Speaking of which, you have quite the crowd in the waiting room. Your son is here with, well, I'm not entirely sure who she is, but she's been handling things like a general marshalling troops." That had to be Grace's mother. True to her word, she'd taken care of Max. Noah felt something in his chest unclench slightly. "Can I see my son?" "Let me check with the doctor, but I think we can arrange a short visit. You're lucky, Mr. Reed. The bullet missed everything vital. You'll be sore for a while, but you're going to make a full recovery." Lucky. Noah wanted to laugh. He'd been shot protecting a stranger's child, leaving his own son to watch his father bleed out in a park. Sarah would have had words about his definition of luck. 20 minutes later, after the doctor had checked him over and pronounced him stable enough for visitors, the door opened. Max burst through like a small hurricane, then stopped abruptly 3 feet from the bed, uncertainty replacing momentum. "It's okay, buddy," Noah said, his voice stronger now. "Come here." Max approached slowly, his eyes taking in the bandages, the IV, the monitors. "Does it hurt?" "Some. But I'm okay. I promise." "You saved that girl." It wasn't a question. Max's voice held a mixture of awe and something else, fear maybe, or anger. "Yeah. Mom would have done the same thing." Max climbed carefully onto the chair beside the bed, pulling his knees to his chest. "That's what Mrs. Cole said. That Mom would have been proud." Mrs. Cole. So that was her name. As if summoned by the mention, there was a knock at the door. The woman from the park entered, but this was a different version of her. Gone was the power suit, replaced by jeans and a simple white blouse. Her hair, which had been pulled back in a severe bun, now fell in waves past her shoulders. She looked younger, softer, but her eyes remained sharp, assessing. Grace peeked out from behind her mother's legs, then ran to Noah's bedside before anyone could stop her. "You're awake." She beamed at him, then immediately looked concerned. "Does it hurt terribly?" "Not terribly," Noah assured her. "How are you doing, brave girl?" "I'm not the brave one," Grace said matter-of-factly. "You're the one who got shot." "Grace," her mother said gently, "remember what we talked about, gentle voices in the hospital?" "Sorry, Mama." Grace's voice dropped to an exaggerated whisper. "Thank you for saving me, Mr. Noah." "You're welcome, Grace." Mrs. Cole moved closer, and Noah could see the exhaustion written in the lines around her eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly before she clasped them together. "I'm Alexandra Cole," she said formally, then seemed to catch herself. "Alex, She stopped, took a breath. "I don't know how to thank you. What you did, anyone would have—" "No." Her voice was sharp, cutting through his deflection. "They wouldn't have. 20 people in that park, and you were the only one who moved. You didn't know us. You had your own child to think about. And you still—" Her composure cracked slightly. "You saved my daughter's life." Noah didn't know what to say to that. The truth was, he hadn't thought about it at all. There had been a child in danger, and his body had moved, It was that simple and that complicated. The police caught him. Alex continued, her voice steadier now, returning to facts. Marcus Hoffman, my ex-husband's brother. He's had mental health issues for years, but we never thought... She stopped again, glancing at the children. That's a conversation for later. Ex-husband's brother. Noah filed that information away, noting the way Alex's jaw tightened when she mentioned it. Right now, Alex continued, I need you to know that all of your medical expenses will be covered. Everything. And I've arranged for a private room as soon as one becomes available. That's not necessary. It is. Her tone brooked no argument. I've also spoken with your employer. You'll receive full pay during your recovery, no questions asked. Noah blinked. How did you... I have resources, Mr. Reed, and when someone saves my daughter's life, I use them. She paused, seeming to realize how that sounded. I'm sorry. I don't mean to steamroll you. It's just, this is what I do. I fix things, I solve problems. And right now, making sure you and your son are taken care of is the only thing keeping me from completely falling apart. The vulnerability in that admission caught Noah off guard. Behind the composed exterior, Alexandra Cole was barely holding it together. Mom doesn't cry, Grace announced, but her eyes were all red in the car. Grace. Alex's cheeks flushed. It's true. And you said the F word twice. Max giggled, the first genuine laugh Noah had heard from him since he'd woken up. The sound loosened something in Noah's chest. Okay, that's enough sharing for now, Alex said. But there was warmth in her voice. We should let Mr. Reed rest. Can we come back tomorrow? Grace asked. I made you a card. Well, I started one, but I need more crayons. The good ones, not the broken ones from the hospital waiting room. You're welcome any time, Noah said, meaning it. As Alex herded Grace toward the door, she paused. Is there anyone I should call family, a girlfriend? No, Noah said quietly. It's just me and Max. Something shifted in Alex's expression, understanding maybe, or recognition. I have Grace's nanny bringing dinner for Max in about an hour. Is Chinese food okay? I didn't know if he had allergies. Chinese is great, thank you. She nodded, then ushered Grace out. At the door, Grace turned back and waved enthusiastically. Bye, Mr. Noah, bye, Max. See you tomorrow. After they left, the room felt oddly empty. Max scooted his chair closer to the bed. She's intense, Max said thoughtfully. Mrs. Cole, I mean. She made like 1 million phone calls in the waiting room, and she knew my full name and birthday and everything without asking. How did she... She said she had her assistant look it up. She wanted to make sure she could take care of me properly. Max picked at a thread on his jeans. She seems sad, though, like underneath, the way you get sometimes. Out of the mouths of babes. Noah reached out, ignoring the pull of his stitches, and took his son's hand. I'm sorry you had to see that, buddy. Me getting hurt. Max squeezed his fingers. I was scared, but Mrs. Cole said you were too tough to let a little bullet stop you. She said you were a hero. I'm not a hero, I just... Dad. Max's voice was serious, too old for his 7 years. You saved a little kid. That's literally the definition of a hero. Even I know that. Before Noah could respond, his phone buzzed on the bedside table. Max handed it to him. The screen showed dozens of missed calls and messages. Word had gotten out, apparently. His foreman, wondering what the hell had happened. Neighbors, parents from Max's school, 3 calls from a number he didn't recognize with a Colorado Springs area code. You're famous, Max said, peering at the screen. Jimmy's mom texted like 6 times. Famous. Great. That was exactly what he needed, more attention, more sympathy, more people looking at him and Max like they were broken things that needed fixing. But as Noah scrolled through the messages, he noticed something else. Offers of help. People wanting to bring meals, watch Max, whatever they needed. Community. Something he'd held at arm's length since Sarah died, too proud or too hurt to accept. Maybe it was the pain medication or the residual adrenaline or just the strangeness of the day. But Noah found himself thinking that maybe, just maybe, letting people help wasn't the worst thing in the world. The next 3 days fell into an unexpected rhythm. Noah would wake to find Max already there, having been dropped off by Grace's nanny before school. Alex would arrive around 9 after getting Grace to kindergarten, always with coffee that was significantly better than the hospital sludge, and usually with some kind of paperwork. "I'm not signing this," Noah said on the third morning, pushing back the contract she'd placed on his tray table. "You haven't even read it," Alex pointed out, sipping her own coffee with the casual elegance of someone who had never spilled anything in their life. "I don't need to. I can see the number at the bottom. $100,000 is not a reasonable compensation for saving my daughter's life." Alex's eyebrow arched. "I disagree. It's too much. It's not enough, but my lawyer said anything more would look suspicious to the IRS. Noah stared at her. "You're serious?" "I'm always serious about money, Mr. Reed. It's one of my character flaws, according to my ex-husband, among many others." There it was again, that flash of vulnerability quickly covered by dry humor. Noah was starting to recognize the pattern. Alexandra Cole was a fortress of competence, with hairline cracks she constantly worked to seal. "I can't accept this." "Then donate it to charity. Set up a college fund for Max. Paper your walls with it. I don't care what you do with it, but I need you to take it." "Why?" Alex set down her coffee and really looked at him. In the morning light from the window, he could see the exhaustion she was hiding beneath carefully applied makeup. "Because for the rest of my life, every birthday, Grace has every graduation, every wedding, every moment I get to watch her grow up, I'll owe to you. And I cannot live with that debt without doing anything to balance the scales, even though I know it never really will be balanced." The raw honesty in her voice made Noah's chest tight in a way that had nothing to do with his healing wound. "It wasn't about money," he said quietly. "It wasn't about reward or recognition or anything like that. She was a scared little kid and I could help, that's all." "I know." Alex's voice was equally quiet. "That's what makes it worse. You didn't know she was my daughter. You didn't know I had the means to reward you. You just acted because that's who you are. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" Before Noah could answer, the door burst open. Grace ran in, followed by Max, both of them giggling about something. "Mr. Noah, look." Grace thrust a piece of paper at him. It was a drawing of what appeared to be him in a cape standing in front of a playground. "I made you a superhero picture, that's you, and that's me, and that's the bad guy running away because he's scared of you." "It's awesome," Noah said, meaning it. "Thank you, Grace." "I helped with the cape," Max added proudly, "because all superheroes need capes." "No capes," Grace said dramatically. "Haven't you seen The Incredibles? Capes are dangerous?" As the kids devolved into a heated debate about superhero costume safety. Alex moved closer to Noah's bed. "There's something else," she said quietly. "The man who shot at Grace Marcus, he's been denied bail, but there will be a trial. You'll need to testify." Noah nodded. He'd expected as much. "I'll make sure you have the best legal support," Alex continued, "and protection if needed. Marcus has issues. His family is complicated. Your ex-husband's family." "Yes." The word came out clipped. "Richard and I have been divorced for 2 years, but his family still blames me for it, for taking Grace away from them. Marcus in particular never accepted the divorce. He has a history of mental illness, stopped taking his medication about 6 months ago. We had a restraining order, but restraining orders don't stop bullets." "No, they don't." Alex wrapped her arms around herself, a gesture that made her look suddenly fragile. "I should have been watching more carefully. I knew he'd been escalating. There had been letters, threats. I hired security for the house for Grace's school, but I thought a public park in the middle of the day would be safe." "You couldn't have known." "Couldn't I? I'm supposed to protect her. That's my job. And I failed." "You didn't fail. You can't control everything." Alex laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's what my therapist says. I'm not very good at believing it." Noah understood that feeling intimately. The crushing weight of responsibility, the constant second-guessing, the what-ifs that haunted 3 a.m. thoughts. He'd felt it every day since Sarah's diagnosis, wondering if he'd pushed hard enough for second opinions, if he'd researched enough treatments, if he'd failed her by not being able to save her. "Grace is safe," he said firmly. "That's what matters. Thanks to you. Thanks to both of us. You raised a smart kid who knew to scream for help. You were there watching her. The system worked." Alex studied him for a long moment. You're very kind, Mr. Reed. Noah, please. We've bled together more or less. I think that puts us on a first-name basis. That earned him a small, genuine smile. Noah, then. Mom, can Grace come to our house sometime? Max interrupted. I want to show her my Lego city. Can I? Mama, please? Grace bounced on her toes. Alex glanced at Noah, who shrugged. Fine by me. We'll see, Alex said in that universal parent tone that meant probably, but I need to think about it first. A knock at the door interrupted whatever Grace was about to say. A man in a suit entered expensive suit. Noah noted the kind that cost more than he made in a month. Alexandra, we need to discuss the Marshall contract. The man stopped, taking in the scene. I apologize. I didn't realize you were still here. David, this is Noah Reed, Alex said, her tone shifting to something more professional. Noah David Chen, my CFO. David's eyes widened slightly. The man from the news. You saved Grace. The news. Noah groaned internally. He'd managed to avoid most of the coverage, but Max had mentioned something about a story on Channel 9. David, we can discuss the Marshall contract this afternoon, Alex said firmly. I'll be in the office by 2. Of course, David nodded to Noah. It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Reed. What you did was extraordinary. After David left, Alex checked her phone and sighed. I have to go. Board meeting in an hour. On a Saturday? Emergency session. The Marshall contract David mentioned, it's a potential acquisition, $300 million. She said it casually like it was grocery money. Noah tried not to let his shock show. He knew Alex was wealthy, the designer clothes and easy authority had made that clear, but $300 million was a different level entirely. What exactly does your company do? Tech development, mostly AI and machine learning applications for healthcare. Alex gathered her things, then paused. Actually, that gives me an idea. Do you have any experience with facilities management? I've been in construction for 15 years. Why? We're expanding our Denver campus. I need someone to oversee the construction and then transition to managing building operations, someone I can trust. She pulled out a business card, writing something on the back. Think about it. The salary would be, competitive. Before Noah could respond, she was ushering the kids toward the door, promising Grace they could come back tomorrow. Noah looked at the card. Alexandra Cole, CEO, Cole Technologies. On the back, she'd written a number that made his head spin. It was more than double what he made now, with benefits that probably included actual health care instead of the bare minimum plan he currently had. He set the card aside. He couldn't think about that now. Taking charity was one thing, but taking a job he hadn't earned. That was something else entirely. The afternoon stretched quiet after the morning's chaos. Max had been picked up by Grace's nanny for a play date, something that would have seemed impossibly surreal a week ago. Noah dozed fitfully, his dreams a mixture of memory and medication. Sarah in a hospital bed. Grace's terrified face, the sound of the gunshot echoing endlessly. He woke to find someone new in his room. An elderly woman with silver hair pulled back in an elegant bun, wearing a cardigan that probably cost more than his monthly rent. She was sitting in the visitor's chair, hands folded over a designer purse, watching him with sharp blue eyes. Mr. Reed, I'm Eleanor Cole, Alexandra's mother. Noah struggled to sit up straighter, wincing at the pull of his stitches. Mrs. Cole? Eleanor, please. I apologize for the ambush, but I wanted to meet you without the circus that seems to follow my daughter everywhere she goes. There was something in her tone, not quite criticism, but a gentle exasperation that spoke of long familiarity with Alex's intensity. She means well, Noah said, feeling oddly compelled to defend Alex. Eleanor's smile was knowing. She does. She also has a tendency to overwhelm people with her good intentions. I wanted to make sure you weren't feeling railroaded. I appreciate the concern, but I'm fine. Are you a week ago you were a single father working construction, minding your own business? Now you're a hero in the news. My daughter is trying to reorganize your entire life, and you're lying in a hospital bed with a hole in your side. That's quite a lot to process. Noah couldn't argue with that. Eleanor leaned forward slightly. May I ask you a personal question? Sure. Your wife, how long has she been gone? The question caught him off guard. 18 months. Cancer. I'm sorry, that must have been devastating for you and your son. It was. Eleanor nodded slowly. My husband died 6 years ago. Heart attack at his desk. He was like Alexandra, working constantly, trying to control everything, including his own mortality. She inherited that from him along with the company. She built the company herself, didn't she? She built it into what it is now. Richard, her ex-husband, he never understood that. He wanted a trophy wife who would host dinner parties and serve on charity boards. Alexandra wanted to change the world. Eleanor's expression softened. The divorce was ugly. Richard's family has money, old San Francisco banking money, and they used every connection they had to try to take Grace away from her. But Alex won. She did. But it cost her. Not just financially, though the legal fees were astronomical. It cost her faith in people. She doesn't trust easily anymore. Eleanor fixed him with those sharp eyes. Which is why what you did means more than you probably realize. You showed her that there are still good people in the world. People who do the right thing without calculating the cost or benefit. Noah didn't know what to say to that. I'm not here to pressure you, Eleanor continued. If anything, I want to make sure Alexandra isn't pressuring you. The job offer, the money, you should only accept what feels right to you. But I also want you to know that these offers come from a place of genuine gratitude, not pity or obligation. It feels like too much, Noah admitted. Perhaps, or perhaps you're not used to accepting help. It's a common trait among those who've had to be strong for others. Eleanor stood smoothing her skirt. Your son is a delightful boy, by the way. He and Grace have become quite inseparable these past few days. Max doesn't make friends easily, neither do I, honestly. Neither does Alexandra. Perhaps that's something you all have in common. Eleanor moved toward the door, then paused. Read Noah. Let me leave you with one thought. Sometimes life takes everything from us, and we learn to live with less. We become experts at survival. But when life offers us something back, we often don't know how to accept it. We've forgotten that we deserve good things too. After she left, Noah lay staring at the ceiling, thinking about her words. He'd become so accustomed to struggling to doing everything alone that the idea of accepting help felt foreign, almost threatening. But what if Eleanor was right? What if he was so focused on surviving that he'd forgotten what it felt like to actually live? Molkin. That evening, just as the sun was painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Alex returned. She looked different, tired, her professional armor discarded. She wore jeans and an old Stanford sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. I know visiting hours are over, she said, hovering in the doorway. I can go if... It's fine. Come in. She entered carrying a paper bag that smelled like Chinese food. I brought dinner. Figured hospital food must be getting old. You figured right. She unpacked containers, lo mein orange chicken spring rolls. It was enough food for 3 people. Hungry? Noah asked, amused. I haven't eaten since breakfast. The board meeting ran long. She pulled a chair closer to his bed, using the tray table as a makeshift dining surface. Do you mind if I... Please, eat. They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes. Noah was surprised by how comfortable it felt sharing a meal with this woman he barely knew. Your mother came by, he said eventually. Alex paused mid-bite. Of course she did. Let me guess she's psychoanalyzed you and delivered some profound life wisdom wrapped in subtle guilt. Something like that. I'm sorry, she means well, but she can be a bit much. Pot meat kettle. Alex looked startled, then laughed a real laugh. Not the controlled professional chuckle he'd heard before. Fair point. She was actually very kind. She wanted to make sure I wasn't feeling pressured. Are you feeling pressured? Noah considered the question. A little, but not in a bad way. More like, I'm not used to people wanting to help. I know the feeling. Alex picked at her food. After my divorce, I was so determined to do everything myself, prove I didn't need anyone. It took me a year to realize I was just making everything harder for myself and Grace. What changed? Grace started kindergarten. I was trying to be CEO, supervise a campus expansion fight, a custody battle, and make it to every school event. I missed her first field trip because of a board meeting. She didn't say anything, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. That night I hired a nanny and stopped trying to be superhuman. Sounds familiar. I missed Max's school play last year because I had to take an overtime shift. The look on his face, Noah trailed off. We do the best we can, Alex said softly. That has to be enough, right? Does it feel like enough? Never. They shared a look of understanding, two single parents carrying the weight of trying to be everything to their children. Can I ask you something? Alex said. Why construction? You seem like someone who could do anything. Noah shrugged, then winced at the movement. Started right out of high school. Sarah and I got married young, had Max young. Construction paid well enough to support a family without a degree. Keep meaning to go back to school, but life keeps happening. Exactly. Alex was quiet for a moment. The job offer isn't charity, you know. I actually do need someone I can trust to oversee the expansion. Someone detail-oriented who won't be intimidated by contractors trying to cut corners or board members trying to micromanage. You don't know if I'm any of those things. Don't I? Alex pulled out her phone, scrolling to something. James Rodriguez, your current foreman. He says you're the most reliable worker he's ever had. You catch mistakes others miss, you're never late, and you've trained half his current crew. Maria Santos, Mac's teacher. She says you're one of the few parents who always reads the weekly newsletters and actually responds to her emails. Tom Chen, your neighbor. He says you helped him rebuild his deck last summer and wouldn't accept payment. Noah stared at her. You had me investigated. I had my assistant make some calls. There's a difference. Is there? Alex had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. I'm thorough. It's another character flaw. How many character flaws are you claiming to have? According to my ex-husband, too many to count. According to my therapist, just enough to make me interesting. Despite himself, Noah laughed. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone colder, I guess? More corporate. I can be that person. I have to be most of the time. But it's exhausting. Alex gathered up the empty containers, avoiding his eyes. It's nice to not have to be her for a while. There was something vulnerable in that admission, something that made Noah's chest tight in a way that had nothing to do with his injury. For what it's worth it, he said, I like this version better. Alex smiled, soft, genuine, transformative. For a moment, she wasn't a CEO or a worried mother or a woman carrying too many responsibilities. She was just Alex sharing Chinese food in a hospital room as the day faded into evening. I should go, she said finally. Let you rest. But Noah, think about the job offer, please. Not because you saved Grace, but because I think you'd be good at it. And because I think maybe you deserve something good to happen for once. After she left, Noah lay in the growing darkness thinking about deserving good things, about accepting help, about the way Alex's smile had transformed her face. He thought about Max and Grace becoming friends, about the possibility of a job that would mean regular hours and health insurance, and maybe even time to coach Max's soccer team. He thought about Sarah, what she would say if she were here. She'd probably laugh at him for overthinking it. Stop being so proud, she'd say. Let people help you. Let yourself be happy. The moon was rising outside his window, full and bright. Somewhere in the city, Max was probably getting ready for bed at his own house, hopefully tired from playing with Grace. Somewhere else, Alex was probably still working, trying to control all the variables in her life, except the ones that really mattered. Noah reached for the business card on his bedside table, running his finger over the embossed letters of her name. Alexandra Cole. Alex. Such a small difference, but it felt significant. The CEO was Alexandra. The woman who brought him Chinese food and laughed at his jokes was Alex. He made his decision then in the moonlit quiet of his hospital room. He would take the job. Not because he'd saved Grace, not out of gratitude or obligation, but because maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop simply surviving and start living again. Maybe it was time to believe he deserved good things. And maybe though he wasn't quite ready to admit it even to himself, it was because he wanted to see more of Alex, the real Alex, not the CEO, not the woman armored in designer suits and professional distance. The woman who ate Chinese food with her fingers and worried about being a good enough mother and smiled like sunrise when she let her guard down. It was a dangerous thought, one he pushed aside quickly. He'd saved her daughter. She was grateful. That was all this was. But as sleep finally claimed him, Noah found himself thinking about the way she'd said his name soft and careful, like it was something worth handling gently. Tomorrow, he would be released from the hospital. Tomorrow, real life would resume with all its complications and responsibilities. But tonight, in this liminal space between his old life and whatever came next, Noah allowed himself to hope. It had been so long since he'd felt hope that he'd almost forgotten what it was like, that flutter in his chest that suggested maybe, just maybe, the best parts of his story weren't behind him after all. The moonlight painted silver squares on the hospital floor, and somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed another emergency, another life changing in an instant. But for now, in this moment, Noah Reed closed his eyes and let himself believe in the possibility of good things coming. He thought of Grace's fierce determination as she pressed her small hands against his wound, of Max's laugh when Grace made him smile, of Alex's vulnerability when she admitted she couldn't do everything alone. They were all broken in their own ways, him and Max, from loss, Alex and Grace, from betrayal and fear. But maybe Noah thought, as sleep pulled him under, broken things could sometimes fit together in new ways. Maybe they could make something different, something unexpected, something good. The last conscious thought he had was of Sarah, and for the first time in 18 months it didn't hurt. He could almost hear her voice warm with approval. "It's about time, Noah. It's about time." Outside, the city lived and breathed around the hospital, millions of lives, intersecting and diverging stories beginning and ending. But inside room 314, Noah Reed slept peacefully. His decision made his path forward suddenly surprisingly clear. Tomorrow would bring challenges. There would be reporters wanting his story, legal proceedings to navigate, a new job to learn, and the complicated dance of figuring out where he and Max fit into the lives of Alexandra and Grace Cole. But tonight, there was just the quiet certainty that he'd made the right choice, not just in that split second in the park when he'd chosen to save a little girl, but in this moment choosing to accept help, to embrace change, to open himself to the possibility that life after loss could still hold joy. The moon continued its arc across the sky, and Noah slept on, unaware that 3 miles away, Alex was standing at her office window looking at the same moon and thinking about the same possibilities. She'd built an empire on calculation and control, but Noah Reed had reminded her that the best things in life, love, trust, heroism, couldn't be quantified or controlled. They could only be chosen moment by moment, day by day. And tomorrow, when the sun rose over Denver, they would all begin choosing their way toward each other, one careful step at a time. The morning Noah was discharged from the hospital arrived with unseasonable rain, the kind that turned Denver's streets into rivers and made everything smell like wet concrete and possibility. Max stood by the window of room 314, his nose pressed against the glass, watching the drops race each other down the pane, while Noah slowly pulled on the clothes Alex had sent over, jeans that actually fit, and a soft Henley that didn't aggravate his bandages. "She got your size exactly right," Max observed, turning from the window. "That's kind of creepy." "Or thorough," Noah countered, though he privately agreed it was a bit unsettling how accurately Alex had guessed not just his clothing size, but his preference for broken-in denim and shirts without logos. The door opened, and Alex herself entered, shaking raindrops from her umbrella. She wore what Noah was beginning to recognize as her casual uniform designer jeans, a cashmere sweater, and an expression that suggested she'd already solved 3 problems before breakfast. "Ready?" she asked, then noticed Max's backpack. "Oh, good, you remembered your homework. Grace is convinced you promised to help her with her reading." "She's already better at reading than half my class," Max said, but he was smiling. As they made their way through the hospital discharge process, Noah noticed how Alex managed everything with quiet efficiency. Paperwork appeared and disappeared. Wheelchair protocols were somehow waived. And before he quite understood how it happened, they were in the back of a black SUV with leather seats that probably cost more than his truck. "This isn't the way to my apartment," Noah said, as they turned onto a tree-lined street he didn't recognize. "No, it's the way to mine," Alex said, not looking up from her phone. "You're staying in our guest house while you recover. It's already been arranged." "Alex, the doctor said you need someone to monitor your wound for signs of infection. You can't lift anything over 10 pounds for 2 weeks, and you live in a third-floor walk-up with no elevator. She finally looked at him. Unless you have a better solution. He didn't, and they both knew it. What he had was a stubborn pride that had kept him going for 18 months and was now running headfirst into Alex's immovable will. The coal estate. Because that's what it was, an estate took Noah's breath away. Not ostentatious, but elegant in that understated way that whispered rather than shouted its wealth. The main house was all clean lines and vast windows set back from the street behind gates that opened smoothly as they approached. The guest house, visible beyond a pool that gleamed like a sapphire despite the rain, was bigger than his apartment. "This is too much," Noah said. "This is practical," Alex countered. "Grace has been having nightmares. Having you close by helps her feel safe. Are you really going to argue with a 6-year-old's mental health?" It was masterfully played, and Noah had to admire the strategy, even as he recognized the manipulation. Grace must have been watching for them, because she burst out of the main house before the car fully stopped flying across the wet driveway in rainbow rain boots and a unicorn raincoat. "Mr. Noah Max, you're here. I made cookies, but Mama says we can't eat them until after lunch. But maybe just one wouldn't hurt, right?" Her enthusiasm was infectious. Max was already out of the car, the two of them racing toward the house with the abandon of children who hadn't yet learned to be careful with friendship. "He hasn't been this happy in months," Noah said quietly. "Neither has she," Alex replied. "Marcus, my ex-brother-in-law, his actions took something from her. Some essential trust that the world was safe. Seeing you recover having Max as a friend, it's giving that back to her." They made their way to the guest house slowly, Noah trying not to lean too obviously on the railing of the pathway. The space was gorgeous, all warm woods and soft grays, with a kitchen that opened onto a living area and floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out onto the pool. "The bedroom's through there," Alex said, gesturing. "I had some of your things brought over from your apartment. Nothing personal, just clothes and necessities. Max's room is upstairs if he wants to stay some nights, though I imagine he and Grace will be back and forth constantly." Noah sank onto the couch, exhaustion hitting him suddenly. The simple act of leaving the hospital had drained him more than he wanted to admit. Alex disappeared into the kitchen, returning with a glass of water and a pill bottle. "Antibiotics. Every 6 hours. And before you argue, taking care of yourself isn't weakness, it's wisdom." "You sound like Sarah," Noah said without thinking, then froze. But Alex just smiled softly. "She sounds like she was a smart woman." "She was." Noah took the pills, washing them down. "She would have liked you. You're both forces of nature disguised as normal people." "I'm hardly normal," Alex said, sitting in the chair across from him. "Normal people don't have panic rooms and security details and ex-in-laws who try to kidnap their children." The weight of what had almost happened, settled between them. Noah could see it in the tightness around Alex's eyes, the way her fingers worried at the edge of her sweater. "He won't hurt her again," Noah said firmly. "No," Alex agreed. "He won't, because he's going away for a very long time and because I'm never letting my guard down again." "That's no way to live." "It's the only way I know how to live now." She stood abruptly. "I need to get to the office. There's food in the fridge, the Wi-Fi password is on the counter, and my cell is programmed into the house phone. Call if you need anything." After she left, Noah sat in the quiet luxury of the guest house, feeling unmoored. 3 weeks ago, his biggest concern had been making rent and getting Max to soccer practice on time. Now he was sitting in a guest house that was nicer than anywhere he'd ever lived about, to start a job that would triple his salary, his son playing happily with a little girl whose life he'd saved. Sarah would have found it all hilarious. "Look at you," she would have said, accidentally stumbling into a whole new life. "Try not to overthink it, babe." But overthinking was all Noah had these days. It was easier than feeling. The rain had stopped and weak sunlight was trying to pierce the clouds. Through the windows, he could see Max and Grace in the main house's kitchen, apparently decorating cookies with what looked like half a bottle of sprinkles. Alex's housekeeper, a maternal woman named Rosa, who'd introduced herself earlier, was supervising with an indulgent smile. Noah's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "This is David Chen. Alex asked me to send you the details for Monday's construction meeting. Attached is the project scope. She speaks highly of your expertise." Monday. 5 days away. 5 days to figure out how to transform himself from Noah Reed construction worker to Noah Reed director of facilities management for Cole Technologies. The title alone made him feel like an imposter. But then he thought about Max's face when he'd seen his room in the guest house, a real room, not the converted closet that passed for his bedroom in their apartment. He thought about health insurance that would actually cover things about being able to say yes when Max asked if he could join the traveling soccer team. He thought about Alex trying to be everything to everyone, carrying the weight of her company and her daughter's safety on shoulders that were strong but not invincible. Maybe they all needed this, whatever this was turning into. The afternoon passed in a blur of kids' laughter and surprising domesticity. Rosa insisted on feeding everyone, producing a spread of sandwiches and soup that turned into an impromptu party. Grace regaled them with stories from kindergarten. Max actually talked full sentences, opinions, jokes even. It was like watching him come back to life. "Mr. Noah," Grace said suddenly, her face serious, "are you going to live here forever now?" "Not forever," Noah said carefully. "Just until I'm better. But what if I want you to stay forever? And Max, too." Max looked up hopefully, and Noah felt his heart crack a little. These kids, both of them carrying losses too big for their small bodies, were already weaving themselves together into something that looked dangerously like family. "We'll see," Noah said, using Alex's deflection from earlier. "Grown-ups always say that when they mean no," Grace observed sagely. "Sometimes they say it when they mean maybe," Rosa interjected, winking at Noah. "Now who wants to help me make dinner?" As the kids scrambled to help, Rosa lingered near Noah. "She's been different since you saved Grace," she said quietly. "Ms. Alex, she smiles more. Real smiles, not the kind she wears for work. It's just relief. Her daughter's safe," Rosa shook her head. "I've worked for this family 6 years. I know the difference between relief and something else. She trusts you. Do you know how rare that is?" Before Noah could respond, Rosa was following the kids, leaving him alone with thoughts he wasn't ready to examine. That evening, Alex returned from work looking frayed. Her usually perfect hair was escaping its twist, and there was a coffee stain on her silk blouse that she kept trying to hide with her blazer. "Rough day?" Noah asked from where he'd stationed himself on the couch, ostensibly reading but really watching the kids build an elaborate fort in the living room of the main house. "The Marshall acquisition is hemorrhaging money. My CFO thinks I'm being too aggressive with expansion, and someone leaked our quarterly projections to TechCrunch." She collapsed into a chair, kicking off her heels. "How was your day?" "Grace and Max built a cookie empire, destroyed it via consumption, then created a blanket fort that's apparently a secret base for fighting cookie-stealing dragons." Alex laughed, the sound transforming her face. "Sounds more productive than my day. Mama, look." Grace emerged from the fort. "We made you a throne." What followed was Alex being ceremoniously crowned Queen of Blanketland, complete with a construction paper crown that Max had decorated with surprising artistic skill. Watching her crawl into the fort designer suit and all to accept her royal duties, Noah felt something shift in his chest. This was dangerous territory. He was here because he'd saved her daughter, because he needed help recovering, because their kids had become friends. Adding anything else to that equation would complicate everything. But then Alex emerged from the fort with her hair completely disheveled, laughing at something Grace had whispered, and Noah realized it was already complicated. Had been from the moment she'd sat in his hospital room eating Chinese food like a normal person, instead of the untouchable CEO she presented to the world. Later, after the kids had been wrestled into pajamas and story time had stretched into 3 books instead of 1. Noah and Alex found themselves on the patio of the main house sharing a bottle of wine that probably cost more than his monthly grocery budget. "I don't usually drink," Alex said, staring at her glass. "Control issues, you know. But today you needed it. Today I wanted to walk into that board meeting and tell them all exactly what I thought of their risk-averse, small-minded approach to innovation." She took a sip. "But I didn't. I smiled and presented data and played the game." "Why?" "Because I have 4,300 employees depending on me to keep the company stable. Because I have Grace to think about. Because being right isn't the same as being effective." Noah understood that calculus intimately. How many times had he wanted to tell his foreman exactly what he thought of the corner cutting and favoritism? But he'd kept quiet because Max needed stability more than Noah needed to be right. It's exhausting, he said, being responsible all the time. Exhausting, Alex agreed. Sarah, did she work? She was a teacher, third grade. She loved it, loved the kids, loved the chaos of it all. She was diagnosed the summer before Max started kindergarten. She tried to keep working, but Noah trailed off, lost in the memory of Sarah trying to hide her exhaustion, pretending the chemo wasn't destroying her from the inside out. How long was she sick? 14 months from diagnosis to, he couldn't say it even now. The doctors gave her 6 months initially. She fought for every extra day. For you and Max? Yeah. Noah stared at his wine. Sometimes I wonder if I should have let her go sooner, if holding on so tight was selfish. Alex's hand covered his on the table. It wasn't selfish. It was love. They sat in silence, her hand warm on his, the night air cool around them. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, but here in this bubble of safety and wealth, it felt like another world. I should go, Noah said, finally not moving. You should rest. Alex agreed, not pulling her hand away. It was Grace's scream that shattered the moment. Both parents were moving before conscious thought Noah, ignoring the sharp pull of his stitches as he followed Alex's sprint into the house. They found Grace sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face, Max already there, trying to comfort her. The bad man was back, she sobbed. He was trying to take me again. Alex gathered her daughter close, rocking her gently. It was just a dream, baby. You're safe. The bad man is in jail. But what if he gets out? What if he comes back? He won't, Noah said firmly, sitting on the edge of the bed. You know why? Grace shook her head. Because you've got a whole team protecting you now. Your mom, Rosa, Max, me. We're like the Avengers, but better because we're real. Really? Grace's voice was small. Really? And you know what else? You're brave. Braver than you know. You did exactly what you were supposed to do that day you called for help. That takes courage. Grace looked at him with those dark eyes, so like her mother's. Were you scared? Terrified, Noah admitted. But being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing what's right even when you are scared. Like when I had to get shots at the doctor. Exactly like that. Grace considered this, then held out her arms to Noah. He hugged her carefully, mindful of his injury, feeling her small body relax against him. Will you stay until I fall asleep? She asked. Noah looked at Alex, who nodded. We'll both stay, Alex said. They ended up in an awkward configuration. Alex on one side of Grace's bed, Noah on the other. Max curled up at the foot like a loyal puppy. Grace held both their hands, her grip surprisingly strong for such a small child. Tell me a story, she demanded. A happy one. Noah looked at Alex, who shrugged. You're the one who promised we're the Avengers. So Noah found himself spinning a tale about Princess Grace and her loyal knight Max, protecting their kingdom from dragons who turned out to just be lonely and needed friends. Alex added details that the dragons loved cookies, they were afraid of the dark too, they just wanted to be understood. By the time the story wound down, both kids were asleep. Noah and Alex extracted themselves carefully, ending up in the hallway outside Grace's room. Thank you, Alex whispered. She hasn't let anyone but me comfort her since it happened. She's processing. It'll take time. You're good with her, with kids in general. I had a good teacher, Noah said, thinking of Sarah and all her patience, her endless well of love for children, even ones that weren't hers. They stood there in the dimly lit hallway, neither moving to leave. Alex had taken her hair down at some point, and it fell in waves past her shoulders. There was a vulnerability to her in this moment, stripped of her professional armor. I should let you rest, she said finally. Probably. Neither moved. Noah, she started, then stopped. The job starts Monday, if you're sure you want it. I'm sure. It won't be easy. The construction crews we've been working with are resistant to oversight. They've been cutting corners, inflating costs. I need someone who can stand up to them. I've been standing up to tough guys on construction sites since I was 18. I can handle it. I know you can. She smiled soft and genuine. That's why I want you for the job. The weight of the day was catching up to Noah, his injury throbbing with each heartbeat. Alex must have noticed because she steadied him with a hand on his arm. Let me help you back to the guest house. I can manage. I know you can, but you don't have to. It was such a simple statement, but it hit Noah like a physical blow. You don't have to. For 18 months, he'd had to do everything, be mother and father to Max, keep working, despite his grief, hold everything together through sheer will. The idea that he didn't have to, that someone else could help carry the weight, was both terrifying and intoxicating. They walked slowly through the garden, Alex's hand on his arm, steadying him. The night was clear now, stars visible despite the city lights. It felt like walking through a dream too perfect to be real, too good to last. At the guest house door, Alex paused. I meant what I said before, about you staying as long as you need. This isn't charity, Noah. This is, I don't know what this is, but it feels right. Yeah, Noah agreed. It does. She stretched up and kissed his cheek, the touch so light he might have imagined it. Then she was gone, walking back to the main house, leaving Noah standing in his doorway with his hand pressed to his cheek like a teenager after his first kiss. Inside, he took his antibiotics, changed his bandages, and lay in the too comfortable bed thinking about the turn his life had taken. 3 weeks ago, he'd been invisible, another single father struggling to make ends meet, grinding through each day just to get to the next. Now he was here in this impossible place, with these impossible people who were quickly becoming essential to him. His phone buzzed. A text from Alex. Thank you for tonight, for being there for Grace, for being there for both of us. He typed back, always. It was a dangerous promise, one he shouldn't make. But as he lay there in the darkness, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of this new place that was starting to feel like home, Noah realized he meant it. The next few days fell into a rhythm that felt both foreign and natural. Mornings with the kids, getting them ready for school, Alex leaving early for the office, pressed and perfect, but always pausing to kiss Grace goodbye, and increasingly to squeeze Noah's shoulder or touch his hand. Afternoons in the guest house, Noah reviewing the construction plans David Chen had sent, making notes about the obvious problems, the places where contractors were taking advantage of coal technology's deep pockets. Rosa became his unexpected ally, bringing him lunch and staying to chat, filling in the gaps about Alex's life that Alex herself would never share. Her father built the company from nothing, Rosa told him Thursday afternoon, but he was old-fashioned, wanted to leave it all to Alex's brother. But Michael, he had no head for business. Drunk driver killed him when he was 22. Mr. Cole never recovered. Had the heart attack 2 years later. And Alex inherited everything. At 25. Can you imagine fresh out of business school, grieving her father and brother, and suddenly responsible for a multi-million-dollar company? Then she met Richard at some charity thing, and everyone thought finally she'll have help. But Richard... Rosa's expression darkened. Richard wanted the money and the status, but not the woman who came with it. He tried to change her. He tried to diminish her, make her smaller, less threatening to his ego. When she wouldn't shrink herself down to fit his expectations, he found other women who would. Noah's hands clenched involuntarily. He cheated on her. Multiple times, then had the nerve to blame her for it, said she was too focused on work, too independent, too much. Rosa shook her head. Grace was the only good thing to come from that marriage. It explained so much Alex's need for control, her difficulty trusting the way she seemed constantly prepared for betrayal or disappointment. That evening, Alex came home earlier than usual, finding Noah in the main house kitchen, attempting to help Rosa with dinner while Max and Grace did homework at the breakfast bar. You should be resting, she said, but she was smiling. I've been resting for 4 days. I'm going stir-crazy. Mama Mr. Noah is teaching us how to make his special spaghetti sauce, Grace announced. It's a secret recipe. Not that secret, Noah said. The trick is adding a little brown sugar to balance the acidity of the tomatoes. Brown sugar in spaghetti sauce? Alex looked skeptical. Trust me. She held his gaze for a moment, something passing between them. Okay. It was such a small word, but Noah heard the weight of it. Alex Cole didn't trust easily. But she was trusting him with her daughter, with her company, with this fragile thing building between them. Dinner was chaotic and perfect. Grace got sauce on her nose, Max actually laughed at Alex's terrible jokes, and Rosa pretended not to notice when she served dessert that there was something different about the way Alex and Noah looked at each other. "Tell us about when you and Dad met," Max said suddenly, then looked stricken. "I mean, if you want to, you don't have to." Noah's throat tightened. Max rarely asked about Sarah anymore, as if talking about her might hurt too much. "We met in high school," Noah said carefully. "She was new, just moved from California. Walked into chemistry class like she owned the place, sat right in front of me and turned around and said, 'You look smart. Want to be lab partners?'" "What did you say?" Grace asked, enthralled. "Nothing. I just nodded like an idiot. Couldn't believe the prettiest girl in school wanted to be my partner." "Was she really the prettiest?" Max asked. "To me, she was. Still is." Noah caught Alex watching him with an expression he couldn't read. She had this laugh that could light up a room, and she was terrible at chemistry but brilliant at everything else. I helped her pass science. She helped me pass at being brave enough to ask her out. "How did you ask her?" Grace wanted to know. Noah smiled at the memory. "I wrote it in the steam on her car window after practice one day. Prom, with a little heart. She said it was the corniest thing she'd ever seen. Then she said yes." "That's romantic," Grace sighed. "That's vandalism," Alex said, but she was smiling. After dinner, the kids disappeared to play video games, and Rosa shooed Noah and Alex out of the kitchen, insisting on handling the dishes alone. They ended up on the patio again, the evening tradition that had developed without either of them acknowledging it. "Max doesn't usually talk about his mom," Noah said. "Grace doesn't usually let people close enough to need to talk about anything." Alex pulled her knees up to her chest, making herself smaller in the chair. "She's been different since you came. More open. More like she was before. Before the divorce. Before Richard showed his true colors. She was 3 when she saw him with another woman. At a restaurant where I was supposed to meet them. She didn't understand what was happening, but she knew something was wrong. Kids always know." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It led us here, didn't it?" She looked at him, then really looked at him. "I've been thinking about what my mother said to you, about deserving good things." "Yeah. I think she was right. We've both been in survival mode for so long we've forgotten what it feels like to actually live. To want things beyond just getting through the day." "What do you want?" Noah asked, his voice low. Alex was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, "I want to not be afraid all the time. I want Grace to sleep through the night without nightmares. I want to trust someone besides my mother and Rosa." She paused. "I want to know what it feels like to be chosen for who I am, not what I can provide." The vulnerability in her voice made Noah's chest ache. He understood that want, that need to be seen as a person rather than a role provider, protector parent. "You know what I want," he said. "I want Max to remember how to be a kid. I want to watch him grow up without constantly worrying about money. I want to stop feeling guilty for still being here when Sarah isn't." He took a breath. "I want to stop being afraid that letting someone new in means letting her go." They sat with those truths between them, heavy and real. Inside, they could hear the kids laughing at something on the TV, Rosa singing along to the radio in the kitchen. It was domestic and messy and imperfect and somehow exactly right. "Monday's going to change things," Alex said finally. "Yeah. You'll be my employee. There will be boundaries, professional ones." "I know." "Do you? Because I'm not sure I do. I've never—" She trailed off, then started again. "I've never mixed personal and professional like this. It's dangerous." "Probably." "You're not making this easier," she said, but there was warmth in her voice. "Did you want easy?" "No," she admitted. "Easy would be simple. This is complicated." Noah thought about reaching for her hand, but didn't. Monday was coming, and with it, a new dynamic. He needed this job, needed the stability it would provide for Max. But he was also increasingly aware that he needed something else, something that had nothing to do with money or security, and everything to do with the way Alex looked in the moonlight, vulnerable and strong in equal measure. "We should review the construction plans," Alex said, clearly retreating to safer ground. "There are things you need to know about the contractors, about the politics involved." So they spent the next hour going over blueprints and budgets, Alex explaining the web of relationships and rivalries that Noah would have to navigate. She was brilliant, like this strategic and insightful, seeing 3 moves ahead like a chess master. Thompson Construction has the primary contract, but they've been subcontracting to Martinez without proper oversight. Martinez is good, but expensive, and I suspect Thompson is pocketing the difference. Classic scheme. I've seen it a dozen times. You need someone on site daily, someone who knows construction and isn't intimidated by the crews. That's why I need you. The way she said it, looking directly at him, made it sound like she needed him for more than just the job. But before Noah could respond, Max appeared in the doorway. Dad, I don't feel good. Noah was up immediately, pressing his hand to Max's forehead. Warm, but not alarming. Probably just too much dessert, Rosa said, appearing with Grace in tow. Grace had the same problem last week when she discovered the candy stash I thought I'd hidden. Rosa, Grace protested. That was supposed to be a secret. Despite feeling unwell, Max smiled at Grace's outrage. The two of them had become co-conspirators in the way only children could 0 to inseparable in a matter of days. Let's get you home, Noah said to Max, then caught himself. Home. The guest house wasn't home, but it was starting to feel like it could be. I'll walk with you, Alex offered. They made their way slowly across the garden, Max leaning against Noah. Alex carrying Max's backpack. It was such a simple thing, but it felt significant, this small act of shared caretaking. At the guest house, Alex helped get Max settled on the couch with water and crackers, while Noah found the thermometer. Normal temperature, just an upset stomach, as Rosa had predicted. I should go, Alex said softly, not to wake Max, who was already drowsing. Early meeting tomorrow. Alex, Noah called as she reached the door. Thank you for all of this, for giving us a chance. She turned back, silhouetted in the doorway. I think we're giving each other a chance. After she left, Noah sat watching Max sleep, thinking about chances and choices. In 3 days, he would walk into Cole Technologies as Director of Facilities Management. It was a ridiculous title for someone who'd been swinging hammers and reading blueprints for 15 years, but Alex believed he could do it. More importantly, he was starting to believe it himself. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. When he opened it, his blood went cold. You think you're a hero, but you're just in the way. She's mine. They both are. This isn't over. Noah screenshot the message immediately, his hands steady despite the rage building in his chest. He forwarded it to Alex with a simple message, call me. His phone rang within seconds. Where did this come from? Alex's voice was controlled, but tight. Unknown number, just came through. Richard, it has to be Richard. Marcus is in custody, but Richard, he's been too quiet since this happened. Your ex-husband is threatening you. He's done it before, just never in writing. He's usually smarter than that. There was a pause. I'm calling my lawyer and the police. Save everything. And Noah, be careful. Richard doesn't like to lose, and in his mind, he's already lost too much. Should I be worried about Max? I'll have security increased immediately. I should have done it sooner. I just thought... Her voice cracked slightly. I thought it was over. It's not your fault. Isn't it? I brought you into this mess, you and Max. If something happens... Nothing's going to happen, Noah said firmly. We're going to handle this the right way through legal channels. And Alex, he doesn't get to win. Not this time. There was silence on the other end, then a shaky breath. You sound very sure. I am. You know why? Because he's operating from weakness. He's lost control and he's lashing out. That message, that's desperation, not strength. How are you so calm about this? Noah looked at Max sleeping peacefully, despite his upset stomach, unaware of the storm brewing around them. Because I've already lost everything once. It taught me what's worth fighting for, and what's just noise. This is noise. What matters is keeping our kids safe and not letting fear control us. Our kids, Alex repeated softly. You said our kids. Noah realized what he'd said, but didn't take it back. Yeah, I did. Another pause, then Alex's voice stronger now. Security will be there within the hour. Don't answer the door for anyone else. And Noah, thank you for being calm, for being here, for everything. After they hung up, Noah checked all the locks, pulled the curtains, and settled in to wait. The security arrived exactly when Alex said they would, two professionals who introduced themselves as Tom and Marcus, explaining they would be stationed outside for the night. Noah didn't sleep. He sat in the living room watching the shadows move across the walls, thinking about Richard Cole and what kind of man would threaten his ex-wife and child. He thought about Marcus Hoffman sitting in a jail cell because his loyalty to his brother had twisted into something dangerous. He thought about the complexity of families, how love could become possession, how protection could become control. Mostly, though, he thought about Alex and Grace Max and himself and how they were becoming something together, not quite a family yet, but something that threatened people like Richard who needed to own rather than love. The sun was just beginning to lighten the sky when his phone buzzed again. Alex. Police have Richard for questioning. His lawyer is already there, but the text came from a phone registered to him. Stay inside today. I'm working from home. Noah smiled despite everything. Alex Cole, CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, was working from home to make sure they were safe. It was protective and probably excessive and exactly what Sarah would have done. Max stirred on the couch where he'd migrated during the night, not wanting to be alone in his room. Dad, is everything okay? Everything's fine, buddy. Just watching the sunrise. Can we have pancakes? Sure, but you're helping. As they moved into the kitchen, Noah caught sight of Tom through the window, alert and watchful. The world had become more dangerous overnight, but also somehow more precious. They had something worth protecting now, something worth fighting for. And Noah would be damned if he'd let anyone take it away. The smell of pancakes filled the guesthouse kitchen as Noah flipped another golden disc onto the growing stack. Max sat at the counter, meticulously arranging blueberries into a smiley face on his plate, seemingly unbothered by the security presence outside or the tension that had permeated the night. Children had a remarkable ability to normalize chaos, Noah thought, watching his son carefully pour syrup into perfect squares on his pancake grid. Can Grace come over? Max asked through a mouthful of breakfast. We were going to work on our science project. Let me check with her mom. Noah reached for his phone just as a knock came at the door. Through the window, he could see Alex and Grace, the little girl, bouncing impatiently while her mother spoke with Tom, the security guard. Grace burst through the door the moment Noah opened it, already chattering about their project involving volcanoes and lots of explosion stuff, while Alex followed more slowly carrying a laptop bag and looking like she'd had about as much sleep as Noah. Coffee, Noah offered, already moving toward the machine. Please, strong enough to wake the dead. She settled at the counter, pulling out her laptop while the kids disappeared upstairs to Max's room. Richard's lawyer got him released an hour ago, claims the phone was stolen, that someone is setting him up. Do you believe that? Not for a second, but Richard's smart. He knows how to play the system, how to create reasonable doubt. She accepted the coffee, gratefully wrapping her hands around the mug. My lawyer thinks we need more evidence. The text alone isn't enough for a restraining order, not with his connections. Noah felt the familiar burn of frustration that came with systemic injustice. Money and influence creating shields that ordinary people could never afford. But before he could voice his anger, Alex's phone rang. Chen, what is it? Her face paled as she listened. How much? A pause. And the security footage. Another pause. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She hung up her hands, trembling slightly. There was a break-in at the Cole Technologies construction site last night. Someone destroyed 3 months of work-damaged equipment worth over $2 million. Richard, the timing is suspicious, but... She shook her head. This is sophisticated, professional. Richard's many things, but he's not one to get his hands dirty. So he hired someone. Probably, but proving it... She stood gathering her things. I need to go assess the damage. Can you... Go. The kids will be fine here. Security's outside, and I'll keep them busy. Alex hesitated, then moved closer, her hand touching his arm. Your official start date isn't until Monday, but you need me there now. I get it. Let me check with Rosa about watching the kids. 20 minutes later, Noah found himself in Alex's SUV heading toward the construction site, while Rosa entertained Max and Grace with cookie making at the main house. His side pulled with every bump in the road, a reminder that he was only a week out from being shot. But the adrenaline of the situation overrode the pain. The damage was worse than Alex had described. The new framework for the building's east wing had been systematically destroyed, cut through with what looked like industrial saws. Concrete had been poured over exposed electrical systems, rendering thousands of dollars of wire useless. Equipment had been smashed with deliberate precision. This wasn't random vandalism, Noah said, examining the cuts in the steel beams. This is someone who knew exactly where to hit to cause maximum damage with minimum time on site. David Chen stood nearby, speaking rapidly into his phone, while Alex surveyed the destruction with the contained fury of someone calculating revenge in spreadsheet columns. Mr. Reed, a familiar voice made Noah turn. James Thompson, owner of Thompson Construction, approached with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Heard you were joining the coal team. Interesting career move. James. Noah kept his voice neutral. He'd worked for Thompson 5 years ago, had left when he'd discovered the man was charging clients for materials that never made it to job sites. Shame about the damage. Terrible thing. But that's what happens when you don't have proper security. I've been telling Ms. Cole she needs better protection, but Thompson shrugged the gesture, somehow making it sound like Alex had brought this on herself. We had security, Alex said coldly. They were called away on a false alarm at the main building 20 minutes before the break-in. Inside information, Noah murmured low enough that only Alex heard. She nodded slightly. Well, we'll get this cleaned up, Thompson said, already pulling out his phone. I can have crews here this afternoon. Of course, rush work costs extra, and with the materials shortage, that won't be necessary. Alex cut him off. We'll be conducting a full investigation before any reconstruction begins. Thompson's friendly mask slipped for a moment. That could set your timeline back months. Then we'll adjust the timeline. Alex's tone could have frozen fire. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Thompson. After Thompson left, Noah walked Alex through what he'd observed, pointing out the strategic nature of the destruction, the specific tools that would have been needed, the insider knowledge required to disable just the right systems. This was Thompson, Noah said quietly. Maybe working with Richard, maybe just taking advantage of the chaos, but this has his fingerprints all over it. Can you prove it? Give me access to the security footage, the work logs, and the purchase orders for the last 6 months. I'll find the proof. Alex studied him for a moment. This is why I need you. You see what others miss. I see what people like Thompson don't want seen. There's a difference. They spent the next 3 hours documenting everything, Noah taking photos from angles that showed the precision of the destruction, while Alex coordinated with insurance companies and law enforcement. By the time they finished, Noah's side was screaming and Alex looked ready to collapse. Let's get you home, she said, noticing his barely concealed wince. I'm fine. You're not, and pushing yourself won't help anyone. Her tone softened. Please, let me take care of you for once. The drive back was quiet, both of them processing the morning's events. As they pulled through the gates of the estate, Noah saw 2 unfamiliar cars in the driveway. My lawyer, Alex explained, tension returning to her shoulders. And probably Richard's. He likes to ambush me at home, knowing I won't make a scene in front of Grace. Sure enough, Richard Cole stood on the front steps, all golden confidence and expensive suit, talking animatedly with a man who had lawyer written all over him. Richard was handsome in that polished way that spoke of good genes and better grooming, the kind of man who'd never had dirt under his fingernails or worry lines that weren't carefully Botoxed away. Alexandra, Richard called out as they exited the car, his voice carrying that particular tone of ownership that made Noah's jaw clench. We need to discuss this ridiculous accusation. Anything you have to say can go through lawyers, Alex said, moving to walk past him. Richard stepped into her path and Noah moved instinctively closer, his body angling to put himself between them, if necessary. And this must be the hero, Richard said, his eyes raking over Noah with obvious disdain. The construction worker who thinks he can play in the big leagues. Noah Reed, Noah said evenly, not offering his hand. I know who you are. The question is, do you know who I am, what you're getting involved in? Richard, stop. Alex's voice was tired. Whatever game you're playing. Game? Richard's voice rose. You're accusing me of making threats, Alexandra. Me. After everything I've done for you, everything I gave you. Everything you gave me? Alex laughed sharp and bitter. You mean the debt? The affairs? The constant belittlement? Which gift are we discussing exactly? You always were dramatic. It's what makes you good at business, but terrible at being a wife. Noah stepped forward, but Alex's hand on his arm stopped him. He's trying to provoke a reaction, she said quietly. Don't give him what he wants. Listen to her hero, Richard sneered. She's good at manipulation. Ask her how many men she's gone through since our divorce. Ask her why none of them stay. That's enough. Noah's voice was calm but carried an edge that made Richard step back slightly. You need to leave, or what you'll shoot me like you shot Marcus. I didn't shoot anyone. I protected a child from a man with a gun. Your brother, if I understand correctly. Richard's face flushed. Marcus is sick. He needs help, not prison. Then maybe you should have gotten him help instead of feeding his delusions about Alex owing you something. You don't know anything about our family. Mr. Cole. Alex's lawyer, a sharp-featured woman named Patricia Reeves, stepped forward. You're in violation of the preliminary agreement to maintain distance during the investigation. I suggest you leave before we add harassment to the charges being considered. Richard's lawyer whispered urgently in his ear, and Richard's jaw clenched. This isn't over, Alexandra. You can't keep Grace from her family forever. Her family tried to kill her, Alex said quietly, and the raw pain in her voice made Noah want to wrap her in his arms. Professionalism be damned. Richard left with a final glare that promised retribution, his lawyer scrambling to keep up. Patricia turned to Alex with a sigh. He's escalating. This visit, the text last night, he's building toward something. I know. Alex rubbed her temples. What are our options? Limited without more concrete evidence. The text helps, but... Patricia glanced at Noah. Mr. Reed, your testimony will be crucial. Marcus's trial is in 3 weeks. Richard will likely be there playing the supportive brother card. We need to be prepared for him to try to paint you as the aggressor. Let him try, Noah said. I know what happened, so do a dozen witnesses. Patricia nodded approvingly. Good. Stay strong, both of you. Men like Richard count on wearing people down. She gathered her briefcase. I'll file for an emergency restraining order based on today's confrontation. It might not stick, but it creates a paper trail. After Patricia left, Alex and Noah stood in the driveway, the space between them charged with unspoken words. Finally, Alex broke. I'm sorry. You didn't sign up for this. Richard, the drama, the danger. Stop. Noah turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. I signed up to protect Grace that day in the park. Everything else, that's just life happening. Messy, complicated life. Your life wasn't this messy before. No, it was just empty. The admission surprised him with its truth. Max and I were existing, not living, going through motions, surviving days. This is living, even the hard parts. Alex's eyes filled with tears. She quickly blinked away. You barely know us. I know enough. I know Grace has your strength and your smile. I know you work yourself to exhaustion trying to be everything to everyone. I know you eat takeout straight from the container when you think no one's watching, and you sing off key in the shower, and you check on Grace 17 times a night because you're terrified something will happen if you're not vigilant enough. How do you? The guest house shares a wall with your bathroom. Thin walls. Your version of Taylor Swift is unique. That startled a laugh out of her, genuine and unguarded. That's mortifying. That's human. You're allowed to be human, Alex. She looked at him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Monday seems very far away suddenly. What do you mean? The professional boundaries we talked about. They feel... She struggled for words. Insufficient. Before Noah could respond, the front door burst open and Grace ran out, Max close behind. Mama, Mr. Noah, we made a volcano, and it actually explodes. Rosa helped, but then it got in her hair, and now she looks like a purple monster. The moment shattered, replaced by the chaos of children, and Rosa emerging with indeed purple foam in her usually immaculate hair, laughing despite the mess. But as they all trooped inside to see the science project disaster, Noah caught Alex's hand, squeezing briefly. We'll figure it out, he said quietly. The boundaries, Richard, all of it. She squeezed back. Promise. Promise. The afternoon dissolved into unexpected normalcy. The volcano was cleaned up and successfully redemonstrated with less explosive results. Grace insisted on giving everyone science names, dubbing Noah Professor Hammer and Alex Dr. Boss Lady, which made Max laugh until he couldn't breathe. Rosa produced lunch that somehow managed to use up leftovers while feeling like a feast, and for a few hours they could pretend they were just a normal family enjoying a Saturday. But reality crept back as the sun began to set. Alex's phone rang constantly. Board members concerned about the construction damage reporters who'd somehow gotten word of Richard's visit David Chen with updates on insurance claims. Noah watched her juggle it all, conducting business from her kitchen, while helping Grace with a puzzle, never letting either role falter. I need to go to the office, she said finally after a particularly tense call. The board wants an emergency meeting tonight. On a Saturday night, Noah asked. When you're hemorrhaging money, every hour counts. She looked exhausted. We've got the kids. Go. She kissed Grace goodbye, hesitated, then kissed Max's forehead too. The boy looked startled but pleased. Then she was gone, leaving behind the scent of her perfume and a house that felt suddenly emptier. Is Mama okay? Grace asked, looking up from her puzzle with worried eyes. She's handling business stuff, Noah said carefully. Grown-up problems. Like when Daddy was being mean about money. Noah exchanged glances with Rosa, who shrugged. Kids heard more than adults realized. Something like that, Noah said. But your mom's very smart. She'll figure it out. You'll help her, right? Like you helped me. The simple faith in Grace's voice made Noah's chest tight. Yeah, sweetheart, I'll help her. The evening stretched quiet, the kids watching a movie while Noah reviewed the construction site photos on his laptop, looking for patterns. Evidence, anything that could prove Thompson's involvement. His phone buzzed an unknown number again. You should have stayed out of it. Now you'll learn what happens when you interfere with family business. This time, Noah didn't hesitate. He called Patricia Reeves, directly forwarding the message while it was fresh. Then he called Alex. Another text. Her voice was strained. Same number. Different number, same style. Patricia has it. I'm leaving the office now. Are the kids? Safe. Rosa and I have them. Security's still outside. I'll be home in 20. She made it in 15, bursting through the door with an energy that spoke of panic, carefully controlled. Grace and Max were asleep on the couch, the movie still playing softly. Alex's shoulders relaxed fractionally, seeing them safe. The board approved hiring a private investigation firm, she said quietly, joining Noah in the kitchen. They're taking the sabotage seriously, finally. That's good. Is it Richard has connections everywhere? Even private investigators can be bought. Not all of them. You just need the right ones. Noah pulled out his phone, scrolling to a contact. Sam Morrison, ex-FBI, does private work now. He helped a friend of mine with a custody situation last year. Completely above board, completely incorruptible. Alex took the phone, studying the contact. You trust him. With my life. More importantly, with Max's life. She nodded slowly. I'll call him tomorrow. They stood in the kitchen, the weight of the day pressing down. Through the window, Noah could see Tom making his rounds, vigilant in the darkness. This was their life now, security guards and threatening texts, sabotage and legal battles. This isn't what you signed up for, Alex said again. Stop saying that. Noah moved closer, close enough to see the exhaustion she was hiding, the fear she wouldn't voice. You want to know what I signed up for? She nodded, a small movement. I signed up for Max having a friend who makes him laugh, for Grace feeling safe enough to sleep without nightmares, for Rosa's cooking and your terrible singing and morning coffee that actually tastes good. He paused, gathering courage. I signed up for you, Alex. Complicated, brilliant, frustrating you. Noah. I know, Monday, professional boundaries. But right now it's still Saturday, and on Saturday, I can say that seeing you try to carry everything alone makes me want to share the weight. That watching you with Grace makes me understand what Sarah meant when she said the right person makes you want to be better. That despite everything, Richard, the danger, the complications, I haven't felt this alive since. Alex kissed him. It wasn't gentle or careful, it was desperate and real, tasting of coffee and exhaustion and need. Noah's hands found her waist, pulling her closer, and for a moment the world narrowed to just this. Alex in his arms, soft and strong and absolutely perfect. She pulled back, first eyes wide. I shouldn't have. Yes, you should have. Noah rested his forehead against hers. We'll figure out Monday when Monday comes. Right now, this is right. Is it I'm your boss in 2 days? Your very complicated, recently divorced boss with a stalker ex-husband and more baggage than an airport. And I'm a widowed construction worker with a 7-year-old son and a bullet wound from saving your daughter. We're both complicated. That earned him a small smile. When you put it like that, a crash from outside shattered the moment. Noah was moving before a thought, pushing Alex behind him as he headed for the door. Through the window, he could see Tom wrestling with someone in dark clothing, both figures struggling on the ground. Call 911, Noah ordered, already reaching for the baseball bat Rosa kept by the door. Noah, your injury. Call 911, lock the door behind me, and don't open it for anyone but me or the police. He was outside before she could protest further. Tom had the intruder pinned, but the man was fighting hard, trying to reach something in his pocket. Noah recognized him, one of Thompson's crew leaders, a mean drunk named Eddie Valdez. Eddie, stop fighting! Noah commanded the bat ready, but hoping not to need it. Eddie's eyes were wild, unfocused. You ruined everything Thompson said you'd stay out of it, but you couldn't leave well enough alone. What did Thompson promise you, Eddie? Money, a promotion. Shut up. Eddie struggled harder, nearly breaking free before Tom got better leverage. He's using you, Eddie. When this goes bad and you think Thompson's going to protect you, you'll take the fall while he walks away clean. Police sirens were approaching, getting louder. Eddie seemed to realize what that meant, his struggles becoming more desperate. I can't go back to prison. I can't. Then tell the truth, Noah said urgently. Tell them Thompson sent you. Tell them about the construction site. Make a deal before Thompson throws you under the bus. Eddie went still, breathing hard. You don't understand. These people, they own everything. Judges, cops, the whole system. Not everything. Not everyone. The police arrived in a blur of lights and shouted commands. Eddie was cuffed and taken away, but not before giving Noah a look that might have been gratitude or might have been defeat. Tom gave his statement, blood dripping from a cut on his cheek that Eddie's fingernails had left. You okay? Noah asked. Been worse. You geet. Noah's side was screaming, his stitches pulling with every breath, but he nodded. Yeah. Alex appeared in the doorway, Grace and Max behind her, both kids wide-eyed and scared. It's okay, Noah said quickly, moving to them despite the pain. Everything's okay. Just someone who made a bad choice. Like Uncle Marcus? Grace asked in a small voice. The adults exchanged glances over her head. Yeah, sweetheart, like that. Why do people make bad choices? It was Max who answered, his 7-year-old wisdom surprising them all. Sometimes people get scared or angry and forget how to make good choices. That's why we have to help each other remember. Grace considered this, then nodded solemnly. We'll help each other. Always, Max agreed. As the police finished their investigation and the kids were settled back in bed with Rosa standing guard, Noah and Alex found themselves alone in the guest house. She insisted on checking his stitches, her fingers gentle as she examined the wound. You pulled 2 of them. You need to see a doctor. Tomorrow. Tonight I just need... He trailed off, not sure what he needed. What? Alex's voice was soft. To know you're all safe. To stop feeling like I'm failing at protecting you the way I failed at protecting Sarah. Alex's hands stilled. Noah, Sarah had cancer. You couldn't protect her from that. Logic and feelings don't always align. No, she agreed. They don't. She finished checking his wound, applying new bandages with practiced efficiency. You didn't fail tonight. You stopped Eddie, got him to question Thompson's hold on him. That's huge. Maybe. Alex curled up beside him on the couch, careful of his injury. Can I tell you something? Always. I haven't felt safe since the divorce. Maybe even before that. Richard made me feel like I was constantly under attack, constantly having to defend my right to exist as I was. But with you, she paused. With you, I remember what safe feels like. Noah pulled her closer, ignoring the protest from his ribs. You are safe. I promise you that. They stayed like that as the night deepened, not talking about Monday or boundaries or the complications waiting for them. Outside Tom's replacement stood watch. Somewhere in the city, Eddie Valdez was probably deciding whether to flip on Thompson. Richard was likely plotting his next move. The threads of danger and opportunity were weaving together in ways they couldn't yet see. But in this moment in the quiet guest house with Alex warm against his side, Noah felt something he hadn't experienced since Sarah's diagnosis, hope that wasn't desperate faith, that wasn't blind. This was real, complicated, and messy, and dangerous, but real. "Stay," he said quietly, "just to sleep. I need to know you're here." Alex nodded against his shoulder. "Okay." They moved carefully to the bedroom, Noah changing into sleep pants while Alex borrowed one of his t-shirts. It was intimate without being sexual domestic in a way that should have felt strange but didn't. They lay facing each other in the darkness, not touching but close enough to feel each other's warmth. "Tell me something about Sarah," Alex said unexpectedly. "Something that made you fall in love with her." Noah was quiet for a moment, surprised to find the request didn't hurt. "She used to leave notes in my lunch. Every day, even when she was sick. Silly jokes, bad puns, sometimes just 'I love you,' written 17 times. I saved them all." "That's beautiful. Tell me something about before Richard broke your trust." Alex considered. "I used to dance, ballet all through college. I was good, maybe good enough to go professional, but I chose business instead. Richard hated that I'd given up something artistic for something practical, said it proved I had no soul." "Do you still dance?" "Not since Grace was born. Richard said it was undignified for a mother." "Richard's an idiot." That startled a laugh from her. "Yes, he really is." They talked quietly as the night wore on about small things, favorite books and worst jobs, childhood fears and adult dreams. Noah learned that Alex was afraid of spiders, but not boardrooms, that she'd taught herself coding at 12 just to prove she could, that her favorite sound was Grace laughing. Alex learned that Noah had wanted to be an architect before life intervened, that he built elaborate Lego cities with Max every Sunday, that he still set 2 coffee cups out every morning before remembering. "We're going to be okay," Alex said, finally, sleep making her voice soft. "All of us. We're going to be okay." Noah reached across the space between them, finding her hand. "Yeah, we are." As sleep finally claimed them, Noah thought about the strange paths that led people to each other. A month ago, he'd been anonymous, just another face in the crowd. Now he was here in this space between one life and another with this remarkable woman who was rebuilding herself even as she helped him rebuild. Monday would come with its complications. There would be investigations and trials, professional boundaries to navigate, and children's hearts to protect. Richard wouldn't give up easily, and Thompson would fight dirty to protect his interests. But tonight, with Alex's hand in his, and their children safe in the house next door, Noah allowed himself to believe in the possibility of happy endings that came after devastating middles. Sarah would have wanted this for him, he realized. Not a replacement for what they'd had, but something new, something different, something that honored the past while embracing the future. The last thing he heard before sleep took him was Alex's breathing steady and trusting beside him, and he thought that maybe, just maybe, saving Grace that day in the park hadn't just been about protecting one little girl. Maybe it had been about saving all of them. Sunday morning arrived with Grace's small hand patting Noah's face, her whispered, "Mr. Noah, are you awake?" piercing through the fog of sleep. He opened his eyes to find her standing beside the bed. Max behind her, both children looking concerned. Alex stirred beside him, immediately, alert in that way parents learn to be. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Alex asked, sitting up, his t-shirt hanging loose on her frame. "Rosa says there's people outside. With cameras." Grace's lower lip trembled. "Are they here about the bad man?" Noah was already moving, pulling on a shirt while Alex went to the window. Her soft curse told him everything he needed to know. The media had found them. "How many?" he asked, joining her at the window. At least 6 news vans lined the street outside the gates, reporters and cameramen milling around like vultures waiting for carrion. "Too many." Alex's phone was already ringing. She glanced at it and sighed. David, the board's gonna love this. She answered, walking toward the bathroom. Chen, I see them. No, don't release a statement yet. Noah turned to the kids who were watching with wide eyes. Hey, how about we make a blanket fort in the main house super secret, no windows? But what about the people outside? Max asked. They're just doing their jobs. They want to tell everyone's story about how I helped Grace, but we don't have to talk to them if we don't want to. Can we make the fort big enough for everyone? Grace asked. Even Rosa. Especially Rosa, Noah confirmed. She makes the best fort snacks. As the kids ran off to gather supplies, Alex emerged from the bathroom fully dressed in clothes she must have retrieved while Noah was distracted. The transformation from sleepy woman in his t-shirt to composed CEO was remarkable and somehow sad. I have to go out there, she said. Make a statement, control the narrative before Richard does. You don't have to do it alone. Yes, I do. You're not part of this, Noah. Not publicly. We can't afford to give Richard ammunition about... She gestured between them. About us? There is no us. Not officially. Not yet. The words were firm, but her eyes were apologetic. Tomorrow you become my employee. We need to be careful. Before Noah could respond, she was gone, striding toward the front gates with Patricia Reeves, who had appeared as if summoned. Through the window, Noah watched Alex face the cameras, poised and professional, giving nothing away, as reporters shouted questions about Marcus, about Richard, about the hero who'd saved her daughter. She's protecting you, Rosa said, appearing at his elbow. And herself. But mostly you and Max. I don't need protecting. Don't you? Those vultures would eat you alive, twist your story, dig into your past. Sarah's death, everything. Miss Alex knows how they work. She's been dealing with them since her father died. Noah watched Alex field questions with practiced ease, deflecting the invasive ones, providing just enough information to satisfy without revealing anything substantial. She was magnificent and distant, a different person from the woman who'd slept beside him holding his hand. His phone buzzed. Sam Morrison, the investigator he'd recommended. Noah, it's Sam. Ms. Cole hired me this morning. I need to talk to you about what I'm finding. Can you meet... I'm trapped by media at the Cole estate. I know, I'm at the service entrance. Security knows I'm coming. 20 minutes later, Sam sat in the guest house kitchen, a tablet full of documents spread between them. Sam was exactly as Noah remembered, unassuming, thorough, the kind of man who could disappear in a crowd or command a room depending on what was needed. Thompson's dirty, but you knew that, Sam began. What you might not know is he's been working with Richard Cole for 3 years. Shell companies, hidden transfers, the whole setup. 3 years, but Alex and Richard divorced 2 years ago. The paperwork started before the divorce. Richard was planning something long-term. Sam pulled up a document. Look at this. Thompson Construction got every Cole Technologies contract right after Richard and Alex separated. Richard was on the board, then pushed them through. He was sabotaging his own wife's company. Ex-wife. And yes, but here's the interesting part. Sam swiped to another document. The insurance payouts from the accidents and delays, they went to accounts connected to Richard. He's been bleeding Cole Technologies, slowly making it look like construction incompetence. Noah felt rage building in his chest. He's been setting her up to fail. More than that, I think he's trying to devalue the company enough to trigger a hostile takeover. Look at these board meeting minutes from 6 months ago. Noah read quickly his construction experience, helping him understand the technical aspects. Richard had proposed a merger with Steinberg Industries, his family's company. Alex had blocked it. Since then, every construction project had faced delays, cost overruns, accidents. Can we prove this? I'm working on it. Eddie Valdez started talking last night. Mentioned Thompson promised him $50,000 to scare you off. But here's what really interests me. Sam pulled up a photo. Security footage from the construction site 2 hours before the vandalism. The image was grainy but clear enough. Richard Cole standing next to Thompson and another man Noah didn't recognize. That's Marcus Hoffman's lawyer, Sam said. Vincent Morse. He specializes in one thing, getting guilty people off on technicalities. Why would he be at the construction site? That's the million-dollar question, but I have a theory. Sam leaned back. What if Marcus shooting at Grace wasn't random? What if it was meant to create chaos, distract from what Richard was really doing? Noah felt sick. You think Richard used his own brother's mental illness as a cover? I think Richard Cole is capable of anything to get what he wants. And what he wants is control of Cole Technologies of Grace of Alex. The front door opened and Alex entered looking exhausted. She stopped short seeing Sam. Ms. Cole, I was just updating Noah on my findings. And her voice was carefully controlled. Sam repeated what he'd told Noah, watching Alex's face go from pale to furious to something beyond anger, a cold determination that reminded Noah she'd built an empire from nothing. Can we use any of this in court? Not yet, but give me another 48 hours. Eddie's about to flip completely, and once he does, Thompson will scramble to save himself. That's when people make mistakes. After Sam left, Alex stood staring at the documents he'd left behind. 3 years. He's been planning this for 3 years. Alex, I thought the affairs were the betrayal, but this... He was undermining me while sleeping in my bed, eating at my table, playing with our daughter. Her voice broke on the last word. Noah pulled her into his arms, feeling her shake with suppressed rage. We're going to stop him. How? He has connections everywhere. The board already questions my judgment because of the divorce. If construction keeps failing, it won't. Tomorrow I start officially. I'll be on site every day. No more sabotage, no more corner cutting, no more delays. You can't watch everything. No, but I can bring in people I trust. Construction workers talk, Alex. They know who's dirty and who's clean. Let me build you a team that Richard can't buy. She pulled back to look at him. Why are you doing this? Really? You know why. Because you're a good man who helps people. Because somewhere between that hospital room and this moment you became my people. You and Grace. The ones I protect, the ones I fight for. Noah, we can't tomorrow changes everything. No, it doesn't. Tomorrow I become your director of facilities management. I'll be professional, respectful, appropriate. But that doesn't change this. He gestured between them. It just means we're careful. For how long? As long as it takes. Alex, I waited 18 months to feel anything besides grief. I can wait a little longer for this to be right. A crash from the main house interrupted them, the kids from the sound of Grace's delighted squeal. Alex smiled despite everything. We should check on the fort architects. The blanket fort had consumed the entire living room sheets and pillows, creating an elaborate tunnel system. Rosa was inside reading to the kids, her voice carrying dramatic inflection that had them giggling. It was so normal, so perfectly domestic that Noah's chest ached with want. Can we come in? Alex called. Password, Grace demanded. Cookie. No. Dragon. No. Max, tell them. Max's head popped out from behind a blanket. It's family. Noah and Alex exchanged glances. Family, they said together. You may enter, Grace announced regally. The rest of Sunday passed in a blur of enforced normalcy. The media remained outside, but inside the gates they created their own world. Noah helped Max with homework, while Alex and Grace baked cookies that turned out lopsided but delicious. Rosa taught them all a card game from her childhood that had everyone laughing until their sides hurt. But as evening approached, the weight of Monday pressed closer. Alex retreated to her office for conference calls with the board. Noah reviewed the construction plans again, memorizing every detail, every potential weakness. The children, sensing the adult tension, grew clingy and quiet. Are you really starting a new job tomorrow? Max asked as Noah tucked him in. I am. Same company as Alex, helping build new buildings. Will we still live here? For now. Is that okay? Max nodded. I like it here. I like having Grace as a friend, and Rosa makes better pancakes than you. Thanks a lot, Noah said, but he was smiling. Dad, do you like Alex like her? Noah considered lying, but Max deserved better. Yeah, buddy, I do. Mom would be okay with it, Max said quietly. She told me before she died that you'd be sad for a while, but then you'd be happy again. She made me promise to help you be happy. Noah's throat closed. She did. She said love doesn't run out, that there's always more if you're brave enough to find it. Your mom was pretty smart. Yeah. Max yawned. Alex is smart too. Different smart, but still smart. After Max fell asleep, Noah found Alex on the patio, a glass of wine untouched beside her. She was staring at her laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Resignation letter, he asked, trying for light. Email to the board, trying to explain why I've hired someone they'll see as unqualified without revealing he saved my daughter's life. Tell them the truth. I have 15 years of construction experience. I've identified significant problems with current contractors, and I'm bringing in my own team to ensure quality control. It's that simple. The best truths usually are. She looked at him, illuminated by the laptop screen. After tomorrow, we'll have to be careful. No more nights in the guest house, no more. She gestured vaguely. I know. The board will be watching for any sign of impropriety. Richard will use anything against me. I know. Then why aren't you running? Noah moved closer, not touching, but close enough to feel her warmth. Because some things are worth fighting for, worth waiting for. I'm not good at waiting, Alex admitted. I'm used to taking what I want, making things happen. Maybe that's why this is important. The best things can't be forced or rushed. They have to develop naturally, honestly. Like buildings, Alex said with a small smile. Strong foundations first. Exactly. They sat in comfortable silence, both aware this was likely their last such evening for a while. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new boundaries, new complications. But tonight they had this quiet understanding and shared purpose. Noah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Reed, this is Vincent Morse. I represent Marcus Hoffman. Noah put the phone on speaker, gesturing for Alex to stay quiet. What do you want? To make a deal. My client has information about the construction site vandalism, about Richard Cole's involvement. He's willing to testify in exchange for reduced charges. Marcus is turning on his own brother. Marcus is having what we call a moment of clarity. The medication is helping him see how he's been manipulated. He wants to make things right, especially regarding the little girl. Noah looked at Alex, whose eyes were wide. What kind of information? Recorded conversations. Richard visiting Marcus, encouraging his delusions about Ms. Cole, suggesting that if Grace were gone, everything would go back to normal. We have dates times recordings. Why should we trust you? Because in 24 hours, I'm filing these recordings with the court regardless. I'm calling as a courtesy, Mr. Reed. Marcus wants you to know he's sorry. He wants the little girl to know he never really wanted to hurt her. The voices, the illness, Richard's manipulation, he's finally seeing it all clearly. After Morse hung up, Alex was already calling Patricia. The lawyer answered on the first ring, listened, then said she'd be there in 30 minutes. This changes everything, Alex said. If Marcus testifies against Richard, Richard's finished, but he won't go quietly. No, Alex agreed. He won't. As if summoned by his name, Alex's phone rang. Richard. Don't answer, Noah said. I have to. If I don't, he'll use it against me. She answered, putting it on speaker. Richard. Alexandra. His voice was slurred, drinking from the sound of it. My brother called, said he's going to lie about me in court. You've poisoned him against me. I haven't spoken to Marcus since the divorce. Liar. You've always been a liar. Perfect Alexandra, so composed, so controlled. But I know what you really are. Richard, you're drunk. We can talk tomorrow. Tomorrow your boy toy starts working for you. How convenient. Hero saves the day, gets the job, gets the girl. Like a bad movie. Noah tensed, but Alex touched his hand, keeping him quiet. There's nothing inappropriate about hiring qualified people, Richard. Qualified. He's a construction worker. But then you always did like slumming. Remember that bartender in Aspen? Goodbye, Richard. I'm going to destroy you, Alexandra. Take everything. The company Grace, all of it. You'll have nothing. Is that a threat? It's a promise. You took everything from me. My family, my reputation. You destroyed your own reputation with affairs and embezzlement. I just refuse to cover for you anymore. Embezzlement? You can't prove... Actually, I can. Thompson's been very chatty since his friend Eddie got arrested. Something about not wanting to go down alone. Silence on the other end, then Richard's voice colder, now sober, despite the alcohol. You think you've won. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Neither do you, Richard. The difference is I'm not alone anymore. She hung up. Within seconds, her phone was ringing again. She turned it off. He's going to escalate, Noah said. Let him. Every threat, every action just adds to our case. But her hands were shaking. Patricia arrived with 2 other lawyers, and they spent the next 3 hours preparing for what was coming. Restraining orders, custody documentation, criminal charges for the sabotage. By the time they finished, it was nearly midnight. I should go, Noah said as the lawyers packed up. Big day tomorrow. Noah, Alex caught his arm. Be careful tomorrow. Thompson won't be happy about you replacing his oversight. I can handle Thompson. I know, but still. Be careful. I can't. She stopped. We can't lose you too. The we hung between them heavy with meaning. Noah wanted to kiss her, to promise everything would be fine, but Patricia was watching and tomorrow was bearing down on them. I'll be careful, he promised. Monday morning came too soon. Noah arrived at the Cole Technologies construction site at 6 a.m., full crew already assembled. Thompson was there, red-faced and blustering. You can't just waltz in here and take over my site. It's not your site, Noah said calmly. It's Cole Technologies' site. You're just a contractor, and from what I've seen, not a very good one. You little... Mr. Thompson. A new voice interrupted. Alex stepped out of a car perfectly composed in a navy suit that meant business. Is there a problem? Ms. Cole, this man is disrupting our workflow. This man is my director of facilities management. He has full authority over this site. If you have a problem with that, your contract has a termination clause we'd be happy to invoke. Thompson's face went purple. You'll regret this. I doubt it. Alex's smile was sharp as glass. Mr. Reed, carry on. I have a board meeting. She left, but not before her eyes met Noah's for a brief moment. Professional, appropriate, but underneath something more. Noah turned to the assembled crew. All right, everyone. We're doing a full site inspection. Every beam, every wire, every bolt. If you've been cutting corners, now's your chance to come clean. No judgments, no firings if you're honest. But if I find problems you don't tell me about, you're gone. By noon, 3 workers had confessed to various shortcuts Thompson had ordered. By 2, Noah had a list of violations that would shut down most construction sites. By 4, Thompson's own foreman had agreed to testify about the systematic fraud. Noah was documenting everything when his phone rang. Max's school. Mr. Reed, Max didn't come back from lunch. We've searched everywhere. The world tilted. Noah was running before conscious thought calling Alex as he ran. Max is missing. What? How? School says he didn't come back from lunch. I'm heading there now. I'm coming. And Noah Grace is still in class. I just checked. The relief that Grace was safe was immediately swallowed by terror for Max. Noah drove like a madman, arriving at the school to find police already there. The principal, Mrs. Davidson, met him at the door. We've reviewed the security footage. Max left with a man at 11:45. The man showed paperwork, said he was picking Max up for a family emergency. What man? She showed him the footage. Noah's blood went cold. Richard Cole smiling at the camera as he led Max away. That's Richard Cole. Noah said, his voice deadly calm. He has no authorization to pick up my son. Alex arrived as the police were issuing an Amber Alert. Her face was pale, but determined. He won't hurt Max, she said quietly. Richard's many things, but he's not violent toward children. He had his brother shoot at Grace. No, he manipulated Marcus, but I don't think he expected actual violence. This is about leverage. He has Max to force us to back down. Noah's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Noah. Richard's voice was calm, controlled. I have your son. He's safe eating ice cream, actually. Seems he likes mint chocolate chip. If you hurt him. I won't. I'm not a monster despite what Alexandra tells people. I just want to talk. Civilized. There's a warehouse on Dock Street, number 47. Come alone, both of you. Richard, this is kidnapping, Alex said. You're destroying any chance of... I'm negotiating. 1 hour. Come alone or I call my friends at Channel 9, tell them about your inappropriate relationship with your employee. How long before the board uses that to remove you, Alexandra? The line went dead. We're calling the police, Alex said immediately. No. Noah's voice was flat. We go. We get Max. Then we destroy him. Noah, this is crazy. This is my son. The words came out raw, desperate. I can't lose him too. I can't. Alex grabbed his face in both hands, forcing him to look at her. You won't. We won't. But we're not going alone. Sam Morrison and his team will follow. Patricia will have police on standby. We play along, but we play smart. 40 minutes later, they pulled up to the warehouse. It was empty except for Richard's Tesla and a van Noah didn't recognize. Richard stood in the doorway, Max beside him, the boy looking confused but unharmed. Dad. Max started forward, but Richard held his shoulder. Not yet, buddy. The adults need to talk first. Let him go, Richard, Alex said. You've made your point. Have I? Because from where I'm standing, you're still trying to ruin me. Richard's composure cracked slightly. 3 years, Alexandra. 3 years I've been trying to get back what's mine. I was never yours, Richard. That was the problem. You were my wife. Grace is my daughter. Grace is not your daughter. Alex's voice was ice. You lost that right when you signed away custody. Because you forced me. Your lawyers, your money, your affairs, your lies, your abuse, Alex countered. Should we list them all? Should we talk about Melissa Jennifer? The girl in accounting who filed a complaint you had buried. Richard's face contorted. You always thought you were better than me. So pure, so perfect, but you're not, are you? You're sleeping with the help now. How the mighty have fallen. Dad, Max's voice was small. Can we go home? Something in the way Max said home, meaning Alex's house, Noah realized made Richard's expression darken further. You've replaced me, both of you. With this, nobody. That nobody saved Grace's life, Alex said. Something you never would have done. Because I never would have let her be in danger in the first place. You sent Marcus after her. I didn't send anyone. Marcus is sick. He acted alone. We have recordings, Richard. Marcus recorded your conversations. You telling him Grace would be better off with her real family. You suggesting that if Grace weren't around, I'd have no reason to keep fighting you. Richard went white. That's not, I never meant, you never mean anything, do you? Alex stepped forward. It's always someone else's fault. The affairs were my fault for working too much. The embezzlement was Thompson's idea. Marcus's breakdown was his own weakness. When do you take responsibility, Richard? When do you? Richard shot back. You destroyed our marriage with your ambition. I succeeded despite you, not because of you, and that's what you can't forgive. While they argued, Noah had been slowly moving closer to Max. Richard was so focused on Alex he didn't notice until Noah was close enough to grab his son. Max, come here. Don't move, kid, Richard said, but his grip on Max had loosened. Let go of my son. Noah's voice was dangerous now, all pretense gone. Your son. Where were you when he needed you? Working overtime, leaving him with babysitters, barely scraping by. He was surviving. We both were. Something you've never had to do. Dad, I want to go, Max said, pulling away from Richard. See? Richard laughed bitterly. Even the kid chooses them over family. We are his family. Grace's voice piped up from behind them. Everyone turned to see Grace standing with Rosa and Patricia police officers behind them. Max is my brother now. That's what chosen family means. Grace, Richard's voice broke. What are you doing here? Making sure you don't hurt anyone else. Grace walked past him to Max, taking his hand. Come on. Rosa made cookies. The simplicity of it, the easy dismissal of Richard's power seemed to break something in him. He lunged forward, whether toward the kids or Alex, Noah couldn't tell. But Noah was already moving his fist, connecting with Richard's jaw in a satisfying crack. Richard went down hard, blood streaming from his nose. You hit me. Everyone saw that. I saw you assault Mr. Reed first, Patricia said calmly, as did the officers behind me, and the security cameras Sam installed an hour ago. Richard looked around wildly, realizing he'd been outmaneuvered. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Alex stood over him, no longer the woman he'd tried to diminish. You're going to jail, Richard, for kidnapping, conspiracy, embezzlement, and whatever else we can prove. Your brother's testimony will bury you. Thompson's already turned state's evidence. It's over. The police moved in cuffs, clicking around Richard's wrists as they read him his rights. He kept shouting about lawyers, about connections, but no one was listening anymore. Noah wrapped Max in his arms, feeling his son shake with delayed reaction. You okay, buddy? He said he was taking me to you, that there was an emergency. I know, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about stranger danger again, okay? He wasn't a stranger. He was Grace's dad. Ex-dad, Grace corrected. Noah's going to be my new dad. The adults all froze. Grace looked at them with innocent confusion. What? That's what happens, right? You love each other, you get married, and then Max and I are real siblings. Grace. Alex started, her face flushed. That's not... It's okay, Mama. I know you have to date first. But anyone can see you love each other. Even Max sees it, and he doesn't notice anything. Hey, Max protested, but he was smiling. As the police cars pulled away with Richard, Sam Morrison approached. That was either very brave or very stupid coming here like that. Probably both, Noah admitted. Well, it worked. Richard threatened you on recording, admitted to the conspiracy on tape. Between that and what we already have, he's done. Later, back at the estate after the police statements and the kids were safely in bed, Noah and Alex stood in the garden between the main house and guest house, neither sure where to go from here. So, Noah said, how was your first day with your new director of facilities management? Eventful, Alex said dryly. He got my ex-husband arrested and saved my nephew. Nephew? That's what Max is, right. If Grace has decided you're going to be her new dad. Kids say things, kids say true things. Alex moved closer. She's not wrong, you know, about how I feel. Alex, we said we'd be careful. We were. We are. But Richard's gone. The board saw you save the construction project today, and frankly, after everything, I don't care what anyone thinks. She reached up, cupping his face. I love you, Noah Reed. It's too soon and too complicated and probably too everything, but I love you. Noah kissed her, pouring everything he couldn't say into it. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. I love you too. Have since you brought me terrible Chinese food and told me your mother was a character flaw. Alex laughed, the sound free and genuine. That was terrible Chinese food. The worst. They stood there holding each other as the night deepened around them. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and trials, construction sites, and board meetings. There would be explanations to the kids properly this time, and decisions about the future that couldn't be rushed. But tonight, with Richard gone and their children safe with the truth finally spoken between them, Noah felt something he hadn't experienced in so long he'd almost forgotten its name. Peace. So, Alex said against his chest, your place or mine? Yours has better coffee. Mine has Grace having nightmares at 3 a.m. Mine has Max's Lego collection spread across every surface. Yours it is, Alex decided, at least until we figure out how to blend our chaos properly. As they walked toward the guest house, Noah thought about the strange journey that had brought them here. A bullet meant for a little girl had torn through more than just his flesh. It had torn through the walls. Both of them had built the careful isolation they'd used to protect themselves from more loss. The courtroom was packed 3 weeks later, every seat filled with reporters, Cole Technologies board members, and curious observers who'd followed the story since it first broke. Noah adjusted his tie for the 10th time, the fabric feeling like it was choking him despite Alex's assurance that it was perfectly fitted. Beside him, Max sat unnaturally still in his own small suit, his hand gripping Noah's tightly. Remember what we practiced? Noah asked quietly. Max nodded. Tell the truth, speak clearly, and don't be afraid. That's my brave boy. Across the aisle, Alex sat with Grace, both of them composed despite the circus surrounding them. Alex caught Noah's eye and mouthed, "Breathe." He tried, but the air felt thick with anticipation and dread. Marcus Hoffman was already on the stand looking nothing like the wild-eyed man who'd terrorized the park that September day. Medication and weeks of treatment had restored clarity to his features, though guilt haunted his eyes as he looked at Grace. "Mr. Hoffman," the prosecutor began, "can you tell us about your conversations with your brother Richard Cole in the weeks leading up to the incident?" Marcus's voice was steady but hollow. "Richard visited me frequently after I stopped taking my medication. He knew I was struggling with delusions about Alexandra stealing our family. Instead of getting me help, he encouraged those delusions." "How did he encourage them?" "He told me Grace was supposed to be with our family, that Alexandra had poisoned her against us. He said if Grace wasn't in the picture, Alexandra would have no power over him anymore." Marcus's voice cracked. "I want to be clear, he never explicitly told me to hurt anyone, but he knew I was unstable and he fed my paranoia anyway." The prosecutor presented the recordings, then Richard's voice filling the courtroom with its calculated manipulation. Noah watched the jury's faces shift from skepticism to disgust as they heard Richard carefully plant ideas while maintaining plausible deniability. "She took everything from us, Marcus. Your niece, our family's reputation, everything. Sometimes I think everyone would be better off if things went back to how they were before Grace. I'm not saying do anything, but Alexandra needs to understand she can't keep us from our family forever." When it was Noah's turn to testify, his legs felt like water. But then he saw Grace's encouraging smile and Max's proud face, and he found his strength. "Mr. Reed, can you describe what happened that day in the park?" Noah told the story simply without embellishment. The man in the hood, the gun, the decision that wasn't really a decision at all. He described the bullet tearing through him, Grace's small hands, trying to stop the bleeding, the terror and determination in her young face. "Why did you do it, Pete?" the prosecutor asked. "Why risk your life for a child you didn't know?" Noah looked at Grace, then at his son. "Because that's what you do. You protect kids. Any kid. Every kid. It doesn't matter whose they are." Richard's defense attorney tried to paint Noah as an opportunist, someone who'd used the shooting to insert himself into a wealthy family's life. But the strategy backfired when Noah calmly presented his initial refusal of Alex's money, his resistance to taking the job, his insistence on maintaining professional boundaries. "Mr. Reed, isn't it true you're now in a relationship with Ms. Cole?" "Yes." "And that relationship began while you were recovering in her guest house?" "No. The relationship began when two single parents realized their kids had become best friends, and that maybe after everything they'd both been through, they deserved a chance at happiness again." "So you admit you pursued a vulnerable woman?" "Objection," Alex's lawyer called out. "Counsel is testifying." "Sustained." The defense attorney regrouped. "When did you and Ms. Cole first become intimate?" Noah met his gaze steadily. "That's none of your business. But if you're trying to imply I saved a 6-year-old girl's life as part of some elaborate scheme to seduce her mother, then you're not just wrong, you're insulting every decent human instinct that exists." The real drama came when Richard took the stand in his own defense. He'd clearly been coached, presenting himself as a concerned family member who'd only wanted what was best for Grace. But Alex's lawyer, Patricia Reeves, was ready for him. "Mr. Cole, you claim you never intended violence toward your daughter." "She's not my daughter," Richard snapped, then caught himself. "I mean, biologically. She's not your biological daughter." Richard's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. Patricia presented the paternity test Richard had secretly ordered 2 years into the marriage, proving Grace wasn't his biological child, something Alex had never hidden, but Richard had used as justification for his cruelty. "You knew from the beginning that Grace was from Ms. Cole's previous relationship, correct?" "Yes, but you adopted her claim to love her as your own." "I did love her. Until you discovered she wasn't your biological child, at which point you began your affairs. That's not Mr. Cole. Is it true you embezzled nearly $3 million from Cole Technologies through fraudulent construction contracts?" The questioning went on for hours, Patricia methodically destroying Richard's carefully constructed image. By the end, he was revealed as what he truly was: A narcissist who'd used his brother's mental illness and attacked a child's safety to maintain control over a woman who'd dared to leave him. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts: conspiracy to commit assault, embezzlement, kidnapping, child endangerment. Richard's face went white as the verdicts were read. 25 to life, the judge announced. Marcus would serve 5 years in a psychiatric facility, his cooperation and mental illness considered. As the courtroom erupted in chaos, Grace tugged on Noah's sleeve. "Is it over now?" "Yeah, sweetheart, it's over." "Good." She looked at Max. "Want to go get ice cream?" The simple question, the easy return to childhood priorities, made everyone laugh, despite the weight of the moment. Alex pulled Grace close while Noah held Max, and for a moment they stood there, not quite a family yet, but something moving steadily in that direction. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Alex handled them with practiced ease while Noah shepherded the kids to the car, but one reporter managed to corner him. "Mr. Reed, how does it feel to be a hero?" Noah paused, considering. "I'm not a hero. I'm just a dad who did what any parent would do, protect a child in danger." "But you weren't Grace's parent then." "No," Noah agreed, catching Alex's eye as she finished with the other reporters. "But I am now." The headline the next morning read, "From Hero to Family, How One Bullet Created an Unexpected Love Story." Rosa had framed it before anyone else was awake, hanging it in the kitchen where it caught the morning light. 6 months later, the Cole Technologies expansion was ahead of schedule and under budget, a minor miracle in construction. Noah stood on the scaffolding reviewing plans with his foreman Jimmy Martinez, someone he'd brought in to replace Thompson's corrupt crew. The site hummed with efficient activity workers who knew they were respected and well paid doing quality work. "Boss Ms. Cole's here," Jimmy called up. Noah climbed down to find Alex in a hard hat and steel-toed boots, somehow making safety gear look elegant. "Thought I'd check on our progress." "Our site manager might object to the CEO showing up unannounced," Noah teased. "Good thing I know the site manager." She pulled him behind a stack of materials, kissing him quickly. "The board approved the second phase funding. We can break ground next month." "That's fantastic." He studied her face. "But that's not why you're here." "Am I that transparent?" "Only to me." Alex pulled out her phone, showing him an email. "Richard's lawyer, he wants to appeal." Noah felt the familiar surge of protective anger. "On what grounds?" "Ineffective counsel, compromised jury, the usual desperate attempts." She pocketed the phone. "Patricia says not to worry, that it's standard procedure and will go nowhere." "But you're worried anyway." "I'm tired of looking over my shoulder. Grace still has nightmares sometimes." Max flinches when someone who looks like Richard walks by. "When does it actually end?" Noah pulled her close, not caring who might see. "It ends when we decide it does." "Richard's in prison. He has no power except what we give him by worrying, so we stop worrying and start living. Simple as that." "Simple as that. Besides, we have a birthday party to plan." Alex smiled. Grace was turning 7 next week, and she'd requested a joint party with Max, whose birthday was 3 days after hers. The kids had been inseparable since the trial, referring to each other as brother and sister to anyone who'd listen. That evening, they all gathered for dinner at the main house, a tradition that had evolved naturally over the months. Noah had officially moved out of the guest house, though not into the main house. Instead, he'd kept his apartment as a transitional space, spending most nights at Alex's, but maintaining enough separation to move slowly, carefully, making sure the kids were adjusting well. "Can we talk about something?" Grace announced as Rosa served dessert. The adults exchanged glances. Grace's serious tone could mean anything from a philosophical question about death to a request for a pony. "Of course, sweetheart," Alex said. "Max and I have been discussing, and we think you should get married." Noah choked on his water. Alex's fork clattered to her plate. "Not right now," Max added hastily. "But like soon, before we get too old." "You're 7 and 8, Noah pointed out. "Exactly. We're not getting any younger," Grace said solemnly. "And if you wait too long, we'll be teenagers and too embarrassed to be in the wedding." "You've really thought this through," Alex said, her voice admirably steady. "We made a presentation," Max said, pulling out a tablet. "Want to see?" What followed was a surprisingly sophisticated PowerPoint presentation, complete with graphs showing happiness levels, Since Noah and Alex met a cost-benefit analysis of marriage versus dating and testimonials from Rosa and Eleanor about why they should just get on with it already. "You got my mother involved in this," Alex asked. "Grandma Eleanor said you need a push sometimes," Grace explained, and Rosa said Mr. Noah is too respectful to propose without being sure you're ready. Noah and Alex looked at each other, both trying not to laugh. Their 8- and 7-year-old children had created a marriage proposal presentation with charts and graphs. "What do you think?" Alex asked him. "The data is pretty compelling." "The happiness metrics are impressive," Noah agreed, "but I noticed there's no timeline specified." "We figured 6 months," Max said. "That way we can have a summer wedding. I don't look good in winter colors." That broke the tension, everyone laughing, as Max seriously explained his concerns about burgundy bow ties clashing with his complexion. But later, after the kids were in bed, Noah and Alex sat on the patio considering their children's presentation. "They're not wrong," Alex said quietly. "The happiness levels have increased significantly." "Is that how we're making decisions now? Based on PowerPoint presentations by elementary schoolers?" "We could do worse. They included animations and everything." Noah laughed, then grew serious. "Alex, I don't want to rush you. We've been through so much." "Noah," she turned to face him fully. "Do you know what I realized during that presentation? We're already a family. We have been for months. The kids know it. Rosa knows it. My mother's been planning the wedding since you got shot. We're the only ones pretending we're still figuring it out." "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe our kids are smarter than we are." She stood, then shocked him by dropping to one knee. "Noah Reed, you saved my daughter, rebuilt my company, and showed me that love after betrayal is possible. Will you marry me?" Noah stared at her, this brilliant, beautiful woman who'd just turned tradition on its head. "You're proposing to me. Someone has to. You're too respectful to do it without a 3-year planning period." "I was going to propose on Grace's birthday," Noah admitted, pulling a small box from his pocket. "I've been carrying this around for a month." Alex laughed, tears streaming down her face. "Of course you have." "So is that a yes?" she asked, still on one knee. "Only if you say yes to mine." Noah knelt beside her. "Alexandra Cole, you brought me back to life when I thought I was just surviving. You gave Max a family and me a reason to believe in tomorrow. Will you marry me?" "Yes. Yes." They kissed there on the patio, both on their knees, both crying and laughing simultaneously. When they finally stood, they found Max and Grace watching from the doorway, identical grins on their faces. "We knew you were listening," Alex said. "We knew you knew," Grace replied. "But someone had to make sure you actually did it." "Group hug," Max announced, and then they were all together, a tangle of arms and laughter and love that had been forged in trauma, but refined into joy. The wedding was indeed 6 months later, on a perfect June day in the garden, where so much of their story had unfolded. Grace and Max served as maid of honor and best man, taking their duties seriously enough to create another PowerPoint presentation about proper wedding party responsibilities. Eleanor walked Alex down the aisle, whispering something that made her daughter laugh through her tears. Jimmy Martinez stood as Noah's groomsman, while Rosa sat in the front row sobbing happily into a handkerchief. Patricia Reeves officiated. It turned out she was also ordained one of many surprises about the shrewd lawyer. Her ceremony was brief but perfect, acknowledging the winding path that had brought them together while celebrating the future they were choosing to build. "Noah and Alex have written their own vows," Patricia announced. Noah went first, his construction-roughened hands holding Alex's manicured ones. "Alex, 6 months after Sarah died, Max asked me if I'd ever be happy again. I told him someday, maybe. I lied. I couldn't imagine happy anymore. Then you walked into my hospital room with terrible Chinese food and even worse jokes, and something in me remembered what it felt like to hope. You didn't fix me. I wasn't broken. But you reminded me that I was still alive, still capable of love, still worthy of joy. I promise to protect you and Grace with everything I have to support your dreams, even when they scare me, and to never ever let you sing Taylor Swift without backup." Alex was cry-laughing by the end. Her vows were typically organized, but no less emotional. "Noah, I built an empire on the principle that needing no one meant no one could hurt me. Then you threw yourself between my daughter and a bullet, asking nothing in return, and my carefully constructed walls crumbled. You showed me that strength isn't about standing alone, it's about knowing who to stand with. I promise to trust you even when my instincts say to control everything, to make space for your dreams alongside mine, and to always save you the last egg roll. Max presented the rings with mathematical precision, while Grace scattered rose petals with artistic flair. When Patricia pronounced them husband and wife, the kiss was interrupted by Grace announcing, "Finally, we're officially siblings," which made everyone laugh. The reception was elegant but warm, held under twinkling lights strung through the garden. The kids gave a joint Best Man Maid of Honor speech that included charts showing projected happiness, increases post-marriage, and a promise to be the best siblings ever, even when we're teenagers and supposedly embarrassing. Sam Morrison, who'd become a family friend after his investigation, raised a toast to Noah and Alex, proof that sometimes the best things come from the worst moments, and to Grace and Max, who apparently run the most effective matchmaking service in Denver. As the evening wound down, Noah found himself standing where it all began, or at least where the aftermath began. The spot where he'd first kissed Alex, where they'd made promises about waiting and boundaries and being careful. "No regrets?" Alex asked, joining him, her wedding dress rustling in the evening breeze. "Only one." Her face fell slightly. "What? I regret not getting shot sooner." "Noah." She hit his arm, but she was laughing. "Think about it. If Marcus had waited even a week, Max and Grace might not have bonded the same way. You might have hired someone else for the construction job. We might have passed each other forever, two single parents, too wrapped up in survival to see what was possible." "So you're saying getting shot was the best thing that happened to you?" "No, getting shot was terrible. The recovery was awful. The trial was a nightmare." He pulled her close. "But it led me to you, to this family, to a life I never imagined I could have. So yeah, I'd take that bullet again." "Well, please don't. One bullet wound per family is enough." They swayed together to the distant music from the reception, two people who'd found each other through violence and chaos, but built something beautiful from the wreckage. "Dad, Mom," Max called out. It was the first time he'd called Alex Mom, and her breath caught. "Grace is trying to sneak cake to her room." "I'm saving it for later," Grace protested. "You can't save wedding cake for later, it goes bad." "It does not, tell him, Mama," as their children bickered good-naturedly. Noah and Alex walked back toward their reception, their family, their future. The bullet wound had long since healed, leaving only a scar that Noah sometimes forgot was there. Richard was serving his sentence, his appeals denied, his power finally broken. Thompson Construction had folded, replaced by honest contractors who did quality work. Cole Technologies was thriving, the expansion complete and profitable. But more than all of that, two broken families had healed into one whole one. Not perfect perfection was a myth Richard had tried to sell, but real, complicated, messy, and absolutely worth every struggle that had brought them here. "Hey," Noah said suddenly. "Want to know a secret? Always. I loved you before the Chinese food. When you promised to take care of Max while I was being wheeled into surgery, you didn't know us, you'd just watch me bleed all over your daughter, and your first instinct was to make sure my kid would be okay. That's when I knew you were extraordinary." Alex stopped walking, pulling him in for a kiss that had their guests cheering and their kids making exaggerated gagging noises. "Want to know my secret?" she whispered against his lips. "Tell me. I loved you when you told Grace she was brave while you were bleeding out. You were dying, and you took the time to make sure she wouldn't blame herself. That's when I knew you were the one." They stood there in their garden, surrounded by family and friends, the lights twinkling above them like stars they'd wished on without realizing it. Tomorrow would bring normal life work and school homework and board meetings, all the mundane chaos of a blended family navigating the world. But tonight was theirs, a celebration of survival and choice of love, found in unexpected places and families formed by something stronger than blood. Tonight, Noah Reed and Alexandra Cole Reed stood together, proof that sometimes the worst moments of our lives are just preparing us for the best ones. Grace and Max ran over, grabbing their parents' hands, pulling them toward the dance floor, where Rosa was teaching everyone a traditional dance from her childhood. Eleanor was partnering with Sam Morrison, both of them laughing at their clumsy steps. Patricia Reeves was explaining the legal implications of marriage to anyone who'd listen, while Jimmy Martinez and his crew had formed an impromptu band with borrowed instruments. Come on, Grace insisted. It's our song. It wasn't their song. It was some pop tune the kids loved, but Noah and Alex let themselves be dragged onto the floor anyway, because that's what family did. They showed up, they participated, they loved each other through bullets and trials, through PowerPoint presentations, and wedding days, through all the ordinary and extraordinary moments that wove lives together into something unbreakable. As Noah spun his daughter now officially. While Alex dipped Max dramatically, making him shriek with laughter, he thought about the butterfly effect of single moments. One man with a gun in a park, one split-second decision to act, one bullet that had torn through flesh but somehow created a family. The music swelled, their guests joined them on the floor, and Noah Reed danced with his wife, his children, his chosen family, knowing that sometimes the best things in life come from the moments that almost break us. Sometimes heroes aren't the people who seek glory, but the ones who simply refuse to let harm come to those who need protecting. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, saving someone else ends up saving yourself too. The party went on late into the night, but eventually guests departed, kids fell asleep in chairs, and the garden grew quiet. Noah and Alex stood together surveying the beautiful chaos of their wedding's aftermath. "So, Mrs. Cole Reed," Noah said, "what now?" "Now, Mr. Reed, we live happily ever after." That simple, that complicated, but worth it. They gathered their sleeping children. Max drooling on Noah's shoulder. Grace clutched in Alex's arms and walked toward their house singular now. No more guest house separation. Tomorrow they'd leave for a honeymoon while the kids stayed with Eleanor, but tonight they'd all pile into the big bed, probably with someone's foot in someone else's face by morning. It wasn't the life either of them had planned. But as Noah looked at his family, at the woman who'd taken a chance on a bleeding construction worker, at the children who'd orchestrated their happiness with presentations and determination, he knew it was exactly the life they were meant to have. The bullet scar pulled, sometimes reminding him of that September day when everything changed. But it no longer hurt. It had become just another part of his story, the violent beginning of something beautiful, the moment when 4 separate lives began their journey toward becoming one family. And as they closed the door on their wedding day, as they settled their children and themselves into bed, as Alex reached for his hand in the darkness and whispered, "Thank you for saving her," Noah whispered back, "Thank you for saving us all." Outside, Denver slept under a canopy of stars. Somewhere other families were facing their own trials, their own moments of decision. But inside the Cole Reed house, 4 people who'd found each other through chaos slept peacefully, safely together. It was, Noah thought, as sleep claimed him, a hell of a happily ever after.